All right. I call to order our regular commission meeting of the Washington Bruce Romeo Parks and Recreation and Star Transportation Commission. So let's start. Yeah, that's a long. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please, if we'd all stand. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do I have a volunteer to read our mission statement?
I'll do it.
Thank you, Bob.
Our mission is to attract and encourage participation for all age groups and abilities through positive opportunity and quality service for the purpose of enriching our residents' lives.
Fantastic. Always want to know why we're here. Number 3, Mrs. Zimmerman, if you might call the roll.
Mr. Billick?
Here.
Ms. Getter?
Here.
Cindy Knight is absent. Mr. Palmer?
Here.
Ms. Zimmerman is here. Russell is here. Darren is here. Mr. Dekowski?
Here.
Moving on to number 4, approval of the agenda from last month's meeting.
No, there's the agenda for tonight.
Approve the agenda for tonight.
Right.
Sorry about that. I know we have a couple of quick changes before we do that approval. I might just point out that we're going to add a 6.1, and that's Mike Kozak from Giffords Webster to present on the park proposal or plans. So we'll put that at 6.1 after legal counsel. Are there any other additions or changes to the agenda as printed?
Mrs. Knight asked for her items under new business to be tabled until next meeting.
Okay.
So that would be
All of
10A, I through 8.
Okay, so we will move those to the October meeting.
Yep. And then also the financial issues.
On
which is
H?
H, I through 8.
Yes. Okay.
I'm sorry, say that again. I was busy writing.
H, the financial issues I through H are also Ms. Knight's.
9H, okay. Sorry. Okay,
Okay,
got it.
all right, so as amended,
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
all in favor?
Yeah, all in favor?
All in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, carries. Now we have the consent agenda, which is the approval of minutes from our August meeting and of August 17th, as well as approval of the accounts payable for August 18th to September 21st, 2023.
I'll make a motion to approve both items on the consent agenda.
Second.
Scott, I don't see where any minutes were sent out, be read or approved. Nothing was emailed out, and there is nothing on the Parks and Rec website, so I don't see how we can approve the minutes when there are none
Everybody
there.
out? Not me. They were sent out within a week after the meeting.
Yeah. I don't know how, if that was in our transition from, I know we had difficulty with some IT and such. Is it,
Is there a
Is it
copy that
appropriate?
the board member can have?
I can-
so let's hold on that one for right now and ask if, on number 6, if the legal counsel, are there any comments at this particular point?
Just briefly and very generally, just mention to you, my workload between meetings has lightened quite a bit, and that's largely due to all the work that this commission has done over the last couple of meetings. We've accomplished a lot of things, and also largely due to the a great deal of heavy lifting done by Ms. Zimmerman, who's shown herself to be very adept at drafting documents and policies, and it's been very easy for me to work with. So I commend the commission. We're not done yet, but we've made a lot of headway in a very short time to get these foundational documents and policies and so on in place, that once we do soon get to that point where we finally adopt these things, it should make proceeding much smoother as we go ahead, not only for the current board, but for future boards, or future commissions as well.
Absolutely. Thank you for those comments, and thank you for the acknowledgement of Ms. Zimmerman. We certainly do
Thank you.
appreciate all of your work on those things.
Thanks.
Okay, we have a special guest here this evening, and we have some exciting plans and drawings to look at, so we are going to ask Mike Kozak to step. I wanted to give Dan a little time to look at. He
Are
was
you
gonna look.
okay with?
Yeah, I'm okay with this right here, and maybe we should give a little bit of background on this. So this is something that was started under the old commission, where we went through, we had meetings with Mike Kozak and that, and described what we wanted, asked him to put the package together, and to also come up with, once the package was put together, to bring it back, and then also for him to complete it out by sending the bids out and that right there. So tonight's presentation will be regarding the 2 pavilions that we had previously authorized under the last commission, and the 4 pickleball courts, as well as fixing the tennis court.
Okay. Thank you,
Missed
Mr.
anything, Mike?
Kukowski.
Nope, I'll elaborate a little bit. Thank you, Dan. Just to orient everybody, these are both parks in Washington Township, down at the south end, the Washington Township Park behind Township Hall, and then Gilcher Chrisman Park there on the north side of 29 Mile Road, adjacent to the Stratford subdivision. I think it's easiest to just kind of click through. There's survey plans in these sets, and everybody has a copy of these sets, but we'll start at the Washington Township Park and try to orient everybody. North is to the left on this plan, so Township Hall is down here at the bottom of the sheet, just off the sheet, but I'll zoom in a little bit so it's a little easier to see. The playground was just completed. I actually drove by there today. It is beautiful and something to be very proud of. I know there was a lot of effort to get that there, and it looks gorgeous. This plan includes the proposal for a new 40 by 40 foot enclosed pavilion. When I say enclosed, it has a roof, but all 4 sides are actually open. That will connect with a new sidewalk to the playground, as well as a sidewalk over to the 4 pickleball courts that Mr. Dukowski spoke of earlier. Those courts are oriented perpendicular to the tennis courts that are out there today. And these tennis courts will be resurfaced. It sounds like there is some drainage issues on those that'll be addressed as well. And these will be just dedicated tennis courts now. They will not be used for pickleball, correct? That is the intent?
Yeah, well, there'll be tennis courts, but I think the pickleball inside the tennis court might still
Still be there?
remain just-
Okay.
Well, that was the original intent, were to just have those as tennis court and pickleball courts, so both activities could be had simultaneously.
Got it. So there's a connection from those courts to the new proposed ones. And again, a gate going out and tying into a new sidewalk over to the pavilion, as well as a new sidewalk allowing access all the way down to the existing pathway that encircles the park. Just some additional background, the Township Board in Washington Township last night approved the reconstruction of their parking lot. That work is to occur later this year. And that includes work to extend sanitary sewer back to this area. Since we're tearing up the parking lot, we're going to put those utilities in under the ground now, and they'll be there for a future bathroom that is planned. One of the things that I think is worth the commission's discussion tonight and contemplation is this bathroom location generally trying to be central to the park. We do have issues, and it's a little difficult to see, but there is a significant, and anyone who's been out there knows it, there's a fairly significant grade drop off from the parking lot back to the soccer fields. What that does is it makes it a little difficult to provide sanitary sewer service all the way back to this area, just based on, makes it actually impossible based on where the sewer is out in Van Dyke. So we're proposing those bathrooms generally in this location. This is about as far, let's say, east as we can go. We can certainly locate those further down here, closer to the playground and closer to the pathway. That's a future amenity that's in a future budget year. The one item, as noted here, is that it would most likely make sense to include the drinking fountains, water bottle filling stations in with those bathrooms in a single unit. So I know that was a part of this scope originally, but if the bathrooms are going to be done at a future time, I think it probably makes sense to hold off on those drinking fountain items as well. The township parking lot project does contemplate and include a new hydrant that will actually come underneath the pavement and be right in this general area, and that's where we would pull water from in the future. So it'll be there. It's not going to be an issue about having to tear anything up to get to it, so we can really put those bathrooms anywhere we want at that point. But that's at least the proposed kind of conceptual location. Any questions on the site plan and just kind of how everything is laid out at this point? And we can take them from the public if everyone's okay with that. It's up to you guys. Yeah. I'll do my best to address them.
I guess the first question is, how many of you people play pickleball?
I play. I'm not good, but I play.
One of the things you want those.
Yeah, you know what?
Excuse me.
Sir, can you maybe make your way to the mic because people can hear it on,
Sure.
introduce yourself and.
Yep. Thank you, Mike. You're a little taller. My name is Larry Kameek. I live in a Glacier Club area around 28 and Campground. And I've been playing pickleball probably for a good 10, 12 years. But so I do have some input when you start looking at providing the courts. My earlier position, I talked to Claire about it, is, boy, it'd be nice to have something in the center of Washington, Bruce, because right now we're about half mile just north of the borderline and nothing up in Bruce, but hopefully that's part of your future plans. So what we've got is what we've got. But one of the things that you have to look at is the courts are set going east and west. You'll notice all the other courts are going north and south, and that's for a reason. When it comes sunlight, you'll be looking in the, you'll be looking into the sun and the sunset. Of course, you'll be looking in the sunset. So if you look at all the courts that have been put in around here, they're all north and south, not east and west. The other thing that we've seen some people put in different communities, some courts, and they really try to minimize the footprint. And in doing so, it's not a safe playing condition. You need to have enough room between the courts so the ball doesn't go into somebody else's court and they step on it. We've had injuries even on those other courts where there's plenty of room and they still step on it. So I don't know exactly what the layout is, but to make sure that you've got something that's large enough. A good example of what not to do is the new Shepherd pickleball courts that are on 23 Mile in, let's see, that would be in Shelby Township. They're just too close to each other and too close to a back fence. So my opinion is, you can do a good job now that you still have got a piece of paper rather than an actual slab to work on. So I appreciate if you would do that. The other thing is we've got about 180 some people in our fan out, our team reach for pickleball. And how can we help you, to make pickleball viable, not only here, but possibly in the center location and also in Bruce Township.
Okay,
Okay, Mike?
Got it. I can help address a couple of those right now. Just
perfect.
Great comment.
Thank you, Larry.
Yeah, we really appreciate that. We'll actually take a look at that orientation about flipping them. I think they'll still fit that same way. They'll just be back to back the opposite way, and we'll still
Could
kind of.
possibly just.
If we have to, we can certainly go a little bit.
Sure.
We don't want to go too far north. But we did actually, these are not minimums, the dimensions that are there, because we were trying to match where the existing tennis courts were. We actually provided some additional space all the way around with the thought of there might be benches eventually placed there and or just every foot extra is a good thing to have. But when we turn them sideways, we'll certainly take a look and see what we can accommodate, but I don't see why that wouldn't work at all. It should be totally fine.
Okay, thank you. Please.
Hi, my name is Julie Guerin. I live in Washington, and I've played pickleball about 11 years. And what Larry said was absolutely correct. We don't want the courts oriented east and west. We want them north and south. That's almost standard everywhere.
Okay.
And the clearances around the courts, that looks good. 10 feet, 12 feet I see, so that all looks good. You don't want to be close to a fence. You don't want to be close to another court. We're all concerned about losing our shade, because I don't know if you're planning on taking the trees down. It looks like you are. And so is the pavilion coming along with the courts?
Can
Being
I?
built at the same time?
Yeah, and we
Pretty
did
much.
talk about adding additional trees on the east side.
The east side is where we would want them, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And not the trees that
That are currently
you
there.
have there with the pine needles and, yeah, all
Yeah.
of the debris to play around. So,
Well,
yeah,
every tree you plant there's going to be some debris.
absolutely.
Yeah, so if I
But-
can jump in there real quick. So I've been discussing with the county, they have a program called Green Initiative. And Scott, I mentioned that to you about a month and a half ago. So I already have where the executive's office, which is Mark Hackle's office, is willing to give us trees. In fact, the remark to me is like, how many? Where you want them? Let's get together. Let's talk about this. So as far as trees and that, I had the same idea with getting trees there, and we had talked about getting trees into these parks and that to give more shading in that, because it's a lot better to have those than have mechanical cantilever type shading, right? So that's another discussion that I'd like to have, and so we can move that forward, and maybe we can get a little committee together and go forward on that right there, because I've been talking to him now for about 6 weeks.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay, and the last thing would be windscreens. All the good courts have windscreens, and we've never had them in Washington, but that would really make a difference.
Now, I thought, Clara, you said that you had windscreens already purchased for the tennis courts, but never put them up.
Not purchased, no. But we are, and we're also going to add cutting a gate into the east side of the tennis courts. So for now, while you're playing, until these are built, you can get your balls instead of having to come out the west side and go all the way around. I don't know if that happens to pickleball a lot, but it happens to tennis. So we need access from that way. So once that is complete, then we'll have screens. And I know you would like them all the way around. And if we take those trees down, it would definitely warrant all the way around now.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
in this budget.
Sir,
Lighted
you wanted to
screen.
come up? I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Oh,
The court's going to be lighted pickleball courts.
yes.
Yes.
I'm Ray Sullivan. I live in Washington Township. Longtime pickleball player, along with Julie and the rest of the crew here. First of all, I want to commend you guys for putting in that AED up at our end here recently. About 12 years ago, I passed out at the OPC in Rochester, and they said I was turning purple. Luckily, there was an AED on the wall right behind me. It revived me, got me back. So recently, I took a little spill here. I kind of got dizzy and went over backwards, cracked my head open. The guys here got the fire department here right away. I'm very thankful for that. Good bunch of people. My question is, besides, are they going to move the AED over to the pickleball courts? There seems to be quite a bit of people falling a lot, all of us. We all teach the newbies coming in, and we always stress, get good court shoes that got some sole to them so you don't slip. But that's why I want to know, are we going to have the AED over there? And it would also be kind of beneficial, since we all teach the new people coming in. One guy bought a ball pitching machine out of his own pocket. Something like that would be great to teach new people, because it'll pitch the balls at you wherever you're at, wherever you want them to go. That would help. We could use some new nets. Our nets are probably 5 years old. The steel, they're pretty ready.
We have been updating them.
They're going to be permanent nets.
They will be permanent nets, yes, in the pickleball. And yes, I'm glad the AED is out there, and I know that you had that incident. We haven't really discussed if we were going to move the AED. I mean, it's in a fairly, maybe we could look at moving it somewhere in
Yeah.
between.
Is-
We wanted to make sure that it's very noticeable.
Right.
You know what I mean? Around the track, next to the tennis courts, next by the pickleball, or in the physical area for everybody.
Yeah,
But
we've-
it's not a horrible idea. I mean,
As you basically got 4 minutes. When you go down, you got 4 minutes for that brain
Right.
function to stop.
right,
So where it's at right now is great for us, but
right. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I have not thought of that until you just said that.
Yeah.
So it is something that we should really look at. Because I know even in our buildings, we have AEDs on one end, and then we
Right.
have them on the other, if you have the ability to do that. I'm just really happy that it's been not, vandalized or anything like that. We're very happy with what has been happening, so. And Washington Township is in the process of getting cameras on their buildings, so it will even be safer, because I'm sure you've come up to the box before and it's been jimmy rigged or whatever. So it will just make the park incredibly safer, so.
one other suggestion. I've seen people walking their dogs at a brand-new playground, and they do their
Oh.
business on that,
Yeah. I
on the
heard
turf. It's, brand-new turf. And you got little toddlers crawling around with, getting their hands in that stuff, so maybe put
Yeah.
a sign out, no dogs allowed in the.
that. Right, on the playground,
Yeah,
yeah.
so that's all I have, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good comment. I'd like to address the other one gentleman's about another pickleball area on this side. So the commission is this year tasked with putting a 5-year master plan together. And that's one of the things that should be considered as far as other things, that amenities that the residents want. So I would suggest sending your comments into the board and keep coming to the meetings in that and making those suggestions known.
And I know that master plan will look at some surveys,
It would have
survey,
that tonight.
got some survey data, okay,
Well, to send home with you.
okay, well, thanks.
We can touch on it.
Thank you guys all for the comments, appreciate it. So that pavilion that we talked about is, as we said, 40 by 40, open air on all 4 sides. Conceptually, this is what is going to act as a basis for basically a turnkey bid that we're going to put out on behalf of the commission to solicit prices from various builders that would fabricate and install the pavilion. The intent is to give it a little bit of a kind of agricultural charm. This, you'll notice when we show you the one at Gilcher Park, they're both almost in the exact same style, so they'll be very consistent between the two and kind of provide a little bit of a design style that people will recognize as they go from park to park. If we talk about Gilcher, is there any more questions about Washington Township Park, I guess, before we move on? A few more improvements here. Gilcher's a little bit more straightforward. So at Gilcher, again, to orient you, this is a little tough because we are fully zoomed in here. 29 Mile Road is over here to the right. This is the end of the parking driveway entrance up at the north end of the park. So again, we're turned sideways with north to your left. This is the existing playground that is there now. This is proposing a much larger pavilion, 120 feet by 80 feet. It's partially covered, partially open, mostly open, but partially covered, with a connection, sidewalk connection out to the parking lot. That's the much larger one that you see here, with a covered area in the rear that will eventually include bathrooms, as well as the potential for a small classroom area or small kitchen area. That can all be programmed out at a later date. We're going to basically bid it out to say, carve out this much area for eventually enclosure, with the rest of it being open air. But again, you'll see the style matches between both of those. Very much a kind of agricultural look, very much fitting with the township and all the surrounding communities. The one, when we talk about drinking fountains again, Gilcher Park currently has irrigation off of a well that is not potable for drinking purposes. So we're going to be providing the commission with a cost estimate to extend water either from 29 Mile Road or from the Stratford sub to the east. It's a fairly long length both ways. So, the initial thought of getting water here is going to be a little more complicated and a little bit more costly, and that might be something, again, that gets rolled into a next year's plan or a future plan from an infrastructure standpoint. We're just kind of in the middle of I don't want to say nowhere in terms of water, because water and sewer is at that park, but it's, again, because of the size, just like we talked about Washington Township Park, you don't think it's that far away, but it adds up pretty quick. So we'll be providing some cost estimates for that, and then we can determine how best to address that in a future plan. Any questions on Gilcher?
I'd like to make a comment there on Gilcher. So last night, our township board, we approved, every year we have what's called a sidewalk gap program. So we approved next year's sidewalk gap program, of which there's the engineering will start on that by Fishbeck, I believe it was. And that will have complete connectivity to Gilcher Park. So they'll be able to take the sidewalk, right up 29 Mile, partially on the south side, all the way on the north side, come in from campground, I believe it was.
Yeah, you'll basically have a continuous walk, I believe, on the north side of 29 all the way from Mound to Campground.
Mound
Oh,
to
wow.
campground.
Yeah.
So it's nice. So it'll be, you can bike it, walk it, ride it, ride it with a bike. But yeah, so that connectivity is going to happen. So this next year, the engineering will be done with the install the following year. So that's coming down the road too. So all this stuff is coming together.
Mike, also too, which I failed to mention, is that we are looking at trying to add some fencing to protect some of the areas. I know we kind of touched on it one.
It was my one question that's on this list for everybody is how
Okay.
best we want to address the fencing quandary at this particular
Right.
location, because we're talking about such a big structure.
Yeah,
There is already a fence around the existing playground that's there.
yeah. I think I'm talking a little bit more about the entire park area.
Okay.
So maybe back.
Down closer to
behind
29 Mile Road.
the Ball field bowl is to add it there so that the walking trails and we're not in the easements and stuff. And that will eliminate some of the fun that people have been having on four-wheelers and different things down by the ball fields. And then we can also look at the fencing. I don't know if we can fence it completely in, if that's the best thing to do, or if it's to fence different areas so that we can alleviate, because we don't have a full-time maintenance staff, so we don't have someone necessarily that comes and closes a gate at nighttime or
Right.
anything like that. So we just want to keep that in mind too, but when we meet next time.
Well, one of the things we did last year when we approved the budget is we put monies in there for security cameras and that, so for that park there. So that right there should be a good start.
But I think we also spoke about fencing along 29 Mile. That's a little more decorative as well for the soccer balls that get
Right.
kicked over the net, so they don't end
The
up.
safety. And,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I at least maybe, thinking about that piece of it, that's.
Yeah, I think, again, so we could certainly give you some lengths and some budgetary numbers to figure out, okay, you go with something like this, you're talking this many dollars versus,
Right.
a different approach. So we can
And
certainly
then
help
that'll
out with
have to
that.
get run by the planning commission.
Yeah.
Fences.
And speaking of the Planning Commission, we were at the Washington Township Planning Commission a week and a half ago now?
Yes.
Yep, presenting these same plans. Their authority is more of a review, comment, accept, which they did. There were no objections voiced. I think they were pretty happy with what they saw as well. So we wanted to make sure we checked that box and they understand what this commission is doing. And it's obviously happening in Washington Township, so they should have some idea. So that has occurred. Our next steps really are take these few comments that I have from, I think, the public and the commission, make some minor modifications to these plans, and then we will add a few more details, written specifications, performance specifications, essentially, that say, as I mentioned, the phrase turnkey. Okay, here's what we want as a final deliverable. contractor is responsible for these coordination items, providing these things, installing these things, final package, what's that cost? So we would have that bid package available to the commission to put out as a public bid, and then essentially review and make a recommendation back before we spend any
And that
dollars.
is something that Giffords Webster will be able to put out a bid pack, because that's what we had originally talked to in the
Yep,
beginning.
that's in our contract with you when we were first here with you guys, that this was the interim step to make sure that everybody knew what you were getting and everyone was happy with what you believe you're getting. Public had a chance to provide some comment and make sure that we have a well-rounded package that's going to be accurate and cost-effective.
When, Mike?
So it'll only be a few weeks to wrap up that package and get it out. I don't know that it needs to formally come back because there won't be any significant changes from what we saw here. We'll probably circulate it internally and make sure there's no final comments. I don't know how do you guys typically do you bid things through BidNet?
Nah.
Yep, okay. So we'll facilitate that with whatever means you need. We'll provide you with PDFs of all the plans and specs. Typically a 2 to 3 week bid process, just like everybody with homework, you wait until the last 3 days to do it. So if we gave everybody 2 months, they'd still wait until the last 3 days to do it. It's human nature. So we'll turn that around and then come back to the commission with prices. So not the October meeting, but I would think the November meeting will know exactly how many dollars we're talking about and then a timeline of when installation occurs.
And Mike, you'll be able to put all those numbers together on a spreadsheet like you do us?
Yeah, we give a tabulation. Dan's used to what we provide the township board. We tabulate what all the various bidders have. We'll obviously make reference calls as necessary to those bidders, or at least the recommended bidder is. But yeah, our normal process that we would do.
When do you think we'll be playing pickleball on those courts?
Next summer, for sure. Next spring, summer. I mean, paving is our controlling factor. We can't pave until middle of May next year, but, base prep and cooperative weather, it'll be next summer for sure. You'll be rocking and rolling.
Another question. Is any of this stuff going to be ADA accessible?
Every pathway that you see that is designed meets ADA requirements. So you'll notice that kind of curvy pathway that we're showing going back there is to account for what that grade's doing. We may need to add some landings to make sure we accommodate that, but all wheelchairs, everybody will be able to get back
I
there.
notice we have on our Parks and Rec stuff we just got, they're going to have classes for people with special needs.
Oh, we have that, yes.
Julie was telling me recently they had pickleball competition with kids in wheelchairs, and they would play against somebody that wasn't in a wheelchair. But
Yeah.
we had a youngster come down a couple weeks ago. We all helped him and his parents learn how to play. We had a ball.
I think, like you, pickleball is not going anywhere, and it really does go across from every age group and ability, so
I'll hang out.
it's a good thing. Yeah. But we are just starting that
Well, my
ADA pickleball. I wanted to tell you too, the Washington Township is redoing their entire parking lot, and that is, I know you would like them this fall, but it could not happen with everything being combined. They're redoing the entire parking lot. No.
No, we're only doing the
No.
parking lot and the sidewalks.
Yes. Yeah, right, you might have to park over here or over there.
It's going to be a little messy for a few weeks,
Yeah.
but a short-term pain for long-term gain.
Yeah,
It's going to
it'll
be
be
quick.
beautiful.
But even our sidewalks right there will all be ADA accessible. So that's one of the drivers on this right here.
One more comment on the pickleball. When you're back, lining the courts up back to back instead of side to side, you want to have a fence.
Separating two. Yeah, there was a fence shown between the groups of two
Yeah.
here, but if we do them the other way, you'll still have that fence there to
The other way
prevent.
is more important.
Yeah, got it.
Just a quick question on that too. Which direction are they going?
We're going to turn them.
They're not going east and west?
We're going to turn them. That was the first comment. Thank you.
All over that.
Well, it's good to have the players here. It's good to have the players.
Yeah,
Yeah,
again,
have
you
the
guys,
end
public
users.
input, we really do appreciate it. I'm got the buy-in. Everyone's going to be excited. I really appreciate it.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Mike. We really appreciate you coming out tonight and sharing this, and thank you with our pickleball players. I don't know if I said it on mic or not, but I said, I want to hang out with you all. You seem like a great bunch of people. I don't play yet, but you make me want to.
One time you'll get hooked.
Yeah.
You'll get hooked since you play once.
I bet. Thank you. But
Early on the agenda.
yes, please enjoy your daughter's dinner.
Very happy to get a birthday present.
Tell her happy birthday from us.
Thank you very much.
All right. We will have additional community comments in one moment, but let's go back to number 5 as we passed out the agenda from last and go back to the idea of approval of minutes from August 17th and approval of accounts payable from August to September 21.
Okay, just as a note, I just looked back in the email. The minutes were mailed out on August 20th by email on the Parks and Rec email system. And Mr. Dekowski, you were included at your Washington Township address, as well as the lady who's responsible for putting it up on the website, and all of the board members, and Clara and Mr. Stearman.
And I believe that was prior to when I got access back into
That's why I sent
my
it to
email.
That's why I sent it to Washington Township, because I knew you couldn't get in the Parks and Rec.
Yeah, I'll have to check that.
Okay.
Yeah, 'cause I looked
Saying
for it
it's
on the
not on our
website. I did not see any minutes there.
Normally we pop
I don't
it
know
up
about
there.
that. I sent it to Debbie.
Yeah, okay. Well,
Do you want to, you had the motion going
Yeah,
last time, didn't you?
my motion still stands to approve both consent agenda items.
Okay.
Second.
Second, Ms. Gaddard. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Oh,
Opposed?
no, that's got to be roll call because it's money.
Okay, that's right. Thank you. You always keep me honest on that.
Mr. Billy,
Yes.
Ms. Geddert,
Yes.
Mr. Dekowski,
I have the minutes, but I have some comments here. I shut my volume off, I apologize. So I have a comment here from Mrs. Knight that she asked me to read. Said our board approved Exfer for emergency IT use, and Clara was to bring back 3 bids. I'm not sure why Exfer was not used for the lockout, but it looks like the guy who fixed it was the lowest bidder. As usual, the bid is like apples and oranges.
Well, that's one of the things I believe we're talking about tonight is the IT stuff.
okay. Yeah, that's it. All right.
Pardon?
I need your vote on approving the minutes and the accounts payable.
I have not had enough time to review them, so for now, I'm just going to have to say no.
Okay.
Not that I'm not approving the minutes, it's just I don't have enough time to
Sure.
digest it right now.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Motion carries.
Okay. I know we've had a number of community comments, and thank you for those in regards to what we heard from Mr. Kozak, but this is the time when the community, if you have additional comments that you would like to share with the commission, if you would come to the podium, introduce yourself, and share those comments. So we welcome those at this time, if there are any.
I'll try that again.
Okay. You're a professional by now.
I think again, my name is Larry, and I think as Clara kind of mentioned, the pickleball is just absolutely accelerated. Now, we've got like 180 some in our fan out. We can overwhelm those courts, the tennis courts that are currently there, and even when you have the extra pickleball courts, we'll probably be also using the dual-use courts. My question is, we've got some really beautiful tennis courts that are at Romeo High School that are just not being used. Same taxpayers. I pay taxes for Washington Township. I pay them for Romeo schools. I look in the back of middle school. There's a couple tennis courts there. It looks like they're just decayed. They're coming apart and stuff like that. What keeps us from being able to expand the tennis and provide good tennis area for our residents? What does it take to be able to work together with the school system? That's probably a question that's come around a couple of times, but go ahead.
Well, so the the tennis courts that are at the Romeo Middle School, those are going to actually be taken down because they have a whole plan of what they're building back there. I would love to have some of those courts. They did give us permission that we can go stripe those courts. It might be a year or two. They thought it was moving along or it was going to start next year. So I did reach out to a striping company, but everybody is just swamped. So nothing has happened at that point. But we can stripe them out now. The back 3 or 4 are in pretty good condition. At the middle school, you have to walk past the ones that are, kind of got the tilted nets and things like that. At the new high school, yeah. Them allowing us to draw pickleball courts, I just don't, it's going to have to be a conversation, and it's going to have to, like the gym classes are have to get to that point where they're using it in the class. It is absolutely becoming a popular sport, but it's like when you get a brand-new car, if you bump it, you know what I mean? I think the first time you walked on our tennis courts down in Washington, once they were redone, and you see all the lines, at first everybody's like, it's a highway, it's a highway. But when you play there, not you, but when you play there, that you know where your lines are that you're playing. I just don't know. It can be a topic of conversation for sure to see if maybe we could get 1 or 2 of the courts lined for pickleball. We could do the temporary where you lay it out yourself. Like maybe they'd let us put a dot and we have those corners that you put out there.
My question is not really to provide more pickleball courts, it's to provide something for the tennis players.
The tennis players can go play when it's available. Like at any of the school properties, you're allowed to go onto their areas that aren't locked off. I don't think you can go on the football field if it's not
Right.
open, but
But if I remember, going back there, is you have to have the gate open in order to get to those tennis courts.
they are locked.
And they
I
are
did
locked,
not
so
know that.
you can't really access them. Anyhow, just if you can kind of work at that, and like I say, it's not for pickleball people.
Oh, okay,
It's
'cause
for
I
the
was
tennis people.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, I don't know that they would let us draw on them yet.
We can put that,
Yeah.
right now, we're in the process of working out a new agreement with Romeo Community Schools for use of their facilities. And so those are the types of things that, and I'm glad you brought it up, that I may not have thought of. Pam and Clara and myself are working with them, so.
Now,
Thank
we
you.
did last year just stripe the park over there behind Times Square off of 33 Mile Road after we repaired that basketball court. And so that is striped off with the pickleball markings.
Okay,
I don't know if
great.
you were aware of that.
Is there a net there?
Pardon?
Is there a net?
There's a net at our office, so they come and pick it up.
Oh, so you don't leave it up
Right, no, because it's a basketball
there?
court
Okay.
and a pickleball.
So, lastly, every time I look at that brochure and I see all the stuff you folks are doing with your budget, it's awesome.
Oh,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Larry.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Does anyone else like to provide any public comment this time? All right, thank you very much for that. Can we take 3 minutes, 3-minute break at this point before we jump into the director's report? Okay. Now, it's a good time for you all to exit if you don't want to listen to the rest of the business. But other than that, I need to step out.
Okay. I never did find mine.
I was gonna say, I got some little wooden mallet things that we used to build some
Is that a
shelves the other
yoga
day.
chime? Does that
I
count?
I could bring one of those for
All right,
you.
let's bring our meeting back. And we will go to number 8, the director's report. We have some different items here. So Clara, letter A.
Letter A is our IT company. So happily, statically, we have our domain back. We had lost it, I don't know if you know this, but we were locked out of it because it needed to be authenticated. Every once in a while, if you know on your accounts, they come back and they want you to put a 6-digit number in. Obviously, with Ron gone, we didn't have access to that. So D2 Technologies actually came in and fell into it, sort of. And they came in and just kind of looked around because I was talking to them and told them what was happening. And they were able to somehow finagle through, I can't go through it all, but it was a lot of time. And with Ron's son, because Ron has all of our information on Drive, with the exception of that, because he had just recently had moved us over. So we do have all of the information. So just giving you up to date on that. So when I'm looking at the IT providers, I met with 3 of them. I met with Exfer, which I had given you the very first time, D2 Technologies, and then Romeo Computers. I really like the idea of using someone local and someone close. I really liked Romeo Computers. And at first I thought, because they were the first 2 that I met, I thought that everybody was just going monthly, so that there would be a monthly charge. And we've been surviving not like that at all. We don't pay a monthly. We would just go along, and as long as everything was good, if we had a problem, then we would call Ron. Ron would let us know. Either he would tell us how to fix it on the phone, or he would come in and do whatever had to happen. Or if we needed something, like we were talking to him about a task manager at the time that you met him. So I think that with this department and everything that we do, we're big, but we're not huge. I would still like that kind of service. So then D2 Technologies came in, and besides saving us, which is a huge one in my eyes, they are hourly. So they looked at, they did a quick, they pretty much dove in at first just to help us to try to get to this point. But from doing that, they looked at our system, and it's at a good place. I mean, it really is at a good place. They have some, that they think that there are places that it can be improved. Definitely our wiring throughout the building can be improved. They looked at our security systems. They're going to look further, but we are secure. And my thought process is they think it's going to be about 20 hours to come in, analyze it, do everything, to get it all set up to where it's going to be. And then after that, it would just kind of flow until we needed something, if we needed a project, if we're adding a new computer station, or if we want to add, when we look at the new finance programs, if we're going to add that, they would be on site if we needed them to be there. They also can do telephones and Xerox and, not just Xerox, I know that's a trade name, but they can help with all of those. So honestly, I just think that they're our best bet. And again, I can't express enough what they did, and they just jumped in. We will be charged for it. It's probably going to be under $1,000 for them and their time, but they spent a lot of time with us in and out, and probably to impress, which they did. And I think because we were really stuck. So that is my recommendation, is that
Do
we
you have a
try.
copy of the bids for the board?
I was going to say.
Oh.
I don't have one.
Oh, this?
Yeah.
Oh, it wasn't in the
It was
packet?
in the bid pack, it was in.
I don't have a board packet. That's where my loss is.
Oh.
So I have no board packet, I have no agenda, everything I'm doing is from the email stuff I brought together.
Oh.
So I don't know where board
Yeah,
packets were
absolutely.
left off. I know I sent an email out a few weeks ago and said, when can I pick up a board packet? Thank you. And never got a response.
Oh, I didn't see, if you sent it to me, I didn't see that.
No, it was in a, okay.
Well, by law, you have to have board packets, they have to be posted, and they have to be made available to all the commissioners, to all the board members, whether you are an alternate or not.
So between D2 and Romeo Computers, is there anything that's differentiating one versus the other? I mean, given the startup fees are fairly close.
Right.
One's a monthly, one's a more as
Okay.
needed.
Romeo Computers did say they're 12 months, but that was really for pricing. They really could have they could have bid for monthly, they just did not. You know, because I did talk to them yesterday, and I told them about that this is why. Do you know what I mean? I was looking at more like this. But say we try D2 Technologies and it doesn't work out, I mean, I would have absolutely no reservations going with Romeo Computers, because what they did, honestly, I have no reservations with going with any of these three companies. I just don't want to spend a monthly fee if we don't need it, if we're sitting and we're riding along. And most of the time, we're riding along.
And they're local, so if you need them, they can be there in a timely
Absolutely.
fashion.
I mean, yeah, because I was on the telephone with him and I told him our situation, and he's like, well, he couldn't come that day, and he's like, but I had to fill out some forms and different things, and he and another tech came the next day and honestly figured it out for us. And some of it was luck, a lot of it was knowledge, because they made it happen. I just don't know that I think that we would be smart to go with D2 because of the fact that the startup fee, yes, it's similar to the others, to Romeo Computers. And then we're in control, we're in the driver's seat, whatever we want, you know what I mean? If they tell us a project, then we decide yes or no, we want to go with it, or how is it going to affect us if we don't? So,
And we're only committing to the startup.
right,
Get everything organized and back with obviously Ron's absence, so.
right,
After that, there's no long-term commitment. We're not signing a yearly contract or 2 years, or anything
Right.
like that.
no commitment at all.
Any other questions or wonders?
Will the controls be in-house so that we don't have?
Have this happen
situation?
again, yes, yeah. And that was one of the things,
So,
obviously, we talked about. And having a backup, because on those, do you know what I mean? I should have been placed as a backup.
Yeah.
And I am. I hate saying anything bad. This situation is just like a terrible storm that happened.
Yeah.
And it happened, you know? So, but because of the safeguards that he did put in place, they were able to, it just didn't say, here, Clara, log in here and use this word. They had to finagle through all of the other things that he had and work out how to get in through, a different way. So would have I been able to do that? No, because I had all of that information and I tried. I did some okay. But they came in and did what they do, in such a short amount of time. I wish, I would have called them earlier.
So if I can indulge the board here, so we just, three of us were on the committee for Washington Township, and we just hired yesterday an IT company. We spent about a month and a half. We vetted 11 different companies. We talked to each one of them, and we also had specific line item for each one that were addressed, and we used those as the measurables. So we started off with 11, and we kept kept watching their scores and talking to them and what they were doing, and we got it down to 4, then we got it down to 2, and then we got it down to 1, and that was the recommendation to the board. Because this is basically a governmental entity, we have to be careful and make sure that we're doing the proper reporting, the proper accounting. Because remember, this entity can sue and be sued. So you don't want to step into anything because, well, I didn't know, and the IT company you pick may not have the knowledge in that. So if you so choose to have this company to get you through the startup, I would suggest you get a committee together and completely vet your IT company for the long term to make sure that you don't have any issues. We have a great outline. If you would like that, we would be, Township would be more than happy to share that to you. In fact, it's on our, it'll be on our website because that'll get approved, but it was in our board packet yesterday.
Okay.
Okay, so you'll see everything that we vetted through, everything that we looked at, all the steps that we took. And so you want to make sure when you get an IT company, I mean, if, let's say, Clara's on vacation for 2 weeks and she's out of the country, what kind of button do you have on their computer and saying, hey, I got malware here? What kind of training are the employees going to get as far as for that, for reporting it, for spotting in that? Okay, so viruses, what kind of virusware do they have? Are they going to offer them Microsoft Office 365? What is the platform they're going to use? So all these things need to be looked at, and I would suggest strongly that this board do their due diligence, sir.
Thank you for those comments, Mr. Dukowski.
Did you guys actually decide on, or is that not public knowledge?
Oh, no, we actually decided on it, so it's public knowledge. So you can watch it on WBRW, and it's in our board packet yesterday. You will see who we recommended, and then yesterday we had the vote. So the approved minutes will then, once we get to the next meeting, the minutes will get approved, and then they'll be up on the website. So, but in the meantime, the board packet's there for yesterday, as well as WBRW. So it's full transparency.
Thank you. Now, we have an immediate need with the things that we need to do. So we need to start up. So Mr. Dukowski's point, the ability to go and get your office up and running, something we need to do ASAP. Would that be fair?
Yes. And he, just so you know, they work for Canton. So they do work for a municipality, and we were good and up to date with all of our things prior to Ron dying. So we are in need definitely of wiring. Even our computers, we've been regenerating them and going through all of them. Our networking, everything is good. But you know what I mean? We need somebody who's out there to help us monitor it. So again, I suggest them.
Well, I think we said I can make motions. I would make a motion then for the startup fee for D2 Technologies to get us to where we need to go to be up and running.
I'll support that.
You're done.
I was thinking if there was going to be more to it, but I'm trying to think if there's anything more that needed to be on that, but I guess not. That's probably what we're talking about. I didn't have the right intonation.
I'm kind of wondering what startup means. What's that definition? What is definition of startup? All right, so we could get our emails. Definitely, we can go to the website, all that right there. So please, if you could define for the public what startup means.
Well, I will. For all of the companies, when I met with them, I asked them how much it would cost for them to come in, completely analyze the system, make sure everything is where it's at, move things, update them, do whatever has to be done. So these were the prices that all three of them gave me for this startup.
So that's what the startup is.
The analyzing and
It's the analyzing and, I mean, they all came in, they looked at the system, they signed the disclosure, but this is when they would actually do the work, you know what I mean? Get us to where we need to be, make suggestions. The one thing about D2 Technologies, again, is the projects. I love that because they can say, oh, you know, we should move to this if you want to do this, and then I can bring it to you and say, hey, we want to do this. What, you know, is it okay? So.
Okay, so we had a motion for D2 Technologies for the $2,500. I didn't have that in my motion, so I'm restating my motion to put that number in there.
Period.
For this analysis and getting us up to the, being able to run. And that would be the extent of it at this particular point. Ms. Zimmerman, I heard a second from you.
Yes.
Any additional discussion other than Mr. Dukowski's comments?
Well, I was thinking maybe it should be, and if needed, until a decision is made about possibly another company or something like that.
Long-term service.
Yeah, until that's established, that, you know, we allow Claire to use B2.
Or,
Yeah. Do this with the proviso that it's short-term, that it's, you know, it's only for this particular thing.
how long did it take you guys to go through your process?
You know, we had it done in about 40 days,
Okay, so.
and that was, pardon?
A little over a month.
A little over a month, yeah, and so this same fee, any new company coming in, anybody that you sit there and you interview, they're always going to have an analysis. So you're going to pay for an analysis twice with this right here.
So if we take, and let me amend again, since we have not yet voted, to then have 1 month of the service that you may need in order to, any hiccups that come after you've gotten the additional setup. So we've got the setup fee and a month of service.
I think we might need longer than that.
2 months of service?
Yeah.
6 months of service?
Well, I mean, why don't we see what he's like, right?
Yeah.
See what the company really, I mean,
And maybe. see
I'm
what we need.
impressed completely so far, but
And we're not locked into 6 months. It's
Yeah.
a month-by-month fee.
That's true, you're not paying
So if
anything.
Or
something
until
were
you
to come
decide.
up
Not paying anything
until,
unless you use them.
correct. So even
This is
if
just
we
if
would
we're
decide to
used.
go a different direction, there's no
Oh,
penalty
yeah.
for.
So it's 2,500 for that, and then this is only if we use it.
Right, okay, got it.
Okay. So if we think about the idea, I'm hearing you say that more than the month is enough. We're thinking 6 months, that would get you a chance to have a good understanding of where they are.
Yeah.
And if there's anything that happens in there in your use of them, we're not on the hook for anything
no,
more.
you can quit anytime you want, but I don't know.
And if we said.
Again, like Dan said, if we're going to pay the 2,500, let's use them.
Right.
See if
Right.
they're everything that I, in my head,
Right.
when they fixed our problem, I think that they are.
And if everything is up to snuff, when another company comes in, it wouldn't cost as much for them to just. you know,
Right, if
unless it-
another company is needed.
Right.
Like,
If-
I'm not
if-
sure.
Right.
Right.
Okay? So I will amend it to then the 6 months of trial usage, and that's my final offer. All in favor,
Now,
you have to resecond again?
I'll second it as amended, but it's got to be a roll call.
Anything
Okay.
with money has to be a roll call.
Right. She tells me that every single time. I'm just a slow learner. If you may please take the roll call on that.
Mr. Billick,
Yes.
Ms. Gettert,
Yes.
Mr. Dukowski,
No?
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
and Ms. Zimmerman is a yes.
Playground turf update ribbon cutting.
So that is on there so that we can pick a day what is available for you, if you'd like to be at the ribbon cutting. We could do it and tie it into our September 20th, October 20th date for our Halloween that is in the park in Washington. Or we can pick a completely different day and do an ice cream social. But we do have to keep in mind of the parking lot, because even the date, I know, for the 20th, if that doesn't work, then we will be moving that to a different location. So
What is the scheduled time for the Halloween in Washington Park? What's the scheduled time currently?
I think it's 5 to 7:30.
Is that in with conjunction with the Romeo Lions? Or no?
The Washington Lions?
Yes, the Washington.
Yeah, well, they've given us funds before for the hot dogs or cider and donuts, whatever. Yeah, they're always,
So it's 5 to 7:30, you said?
I'm guessing.
You're guessing?
I can look.
Yeah. Okay, if you could send that out.
Do you have any idea when they're starting the parking lot?
I asked
No, I
Sam,
don't.
Sam today, and he's not sure.
Okay.
So,
I mean, I guess for me, if it's open now and it's obviously been seen as such a point of pride, we want to make sure we do something here and have some people show up, so. It makes sense to do it when you have the Halloween thing in my mind, but
Right.
if we're going to have construction and everything and people are, well, people will show anyway, right? It's Halloween, it's for kids.
they absolutely, but I just don't know how big of construction.
Yeah.
So if it's,
They said last night, I believe, that at least half the parking lot will always be open.
open. I don't know that they will look kindly, though, if we're having a big event. So we might have to
Yeah.
move it to Gilcher and get a generator and,
But then it's not really a ribbon cutting for the.
no,
Right, yeah.
no. So,
Well, I would suggest, and then if the Washington Lions are involved in this right here, that we do it in their parking lot. I'm sure that Rob Wisniewski, the president over there, would authorize that, because they have done that before, when they did their trunk or treat, and still do the ribbon cutting, because we can just walk on over through the Lions and
yeah.
over there. And
I mean,
then-
obviously, we want the Halloween event to happen at the Township Park because there's electricity. It's just a lot easier for us completely. So we can plan on that, and then we can adjust as we go through. We had to do that with the Village Park at Christmas.
And then I
time,
think
so.
we're kind of guaranteed to have a crowd,
Right? That's right.
you know, because how many,
Mr. Nikowski, do you have a contact with the Washington Lions that you?
Yes, I do.
too, yeah. I can-
Oh, you do?
Yeah, Rob.
Yeah, Rob's on speed dial with me.
Oh, well, he's not on my speed
Right,
dial, but
yeah,
I have
and
his
then
phone number.
once- as far as I'm concerned, that works for me.
So we'll do the October 20th.
Gotcha. Right before it, right?
So would we want to then, on October 20th, do it at like 5 o'clock? So before the event starts, we'll do the ribbon cutting and then come over and do it? I mean,
For the Halloween stuff.
yeah, what is your thoughts?
Yeah, for sure. When you typically want, I mean, for people to show with work schedules and everything is, what's the earliest typically you would do that? Is 5 the earliest you would like to do that?
Yeah, that's not the best time. I'm sorry, I'm trying to find our,
A lot of events, when they're involved with Halloween or stuff like that, they're usually younger kids, and one or the other parent, if not both, are usually home. So that's why they're so well attended.
Yeah.
how about, I'll find the time, but once I find the time, well,
We
if
need
it
to-
Up a half hour.
does start at
hour
5,
before?
we'll
it's
do,
5:30 to 7:30
Advertise
Washington
ribbon
Township
cutting
Yeah.
Park.
half hour early.
earlier.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do that,
5:30 to
Clara?
7:30.
In the brochure, it's 5:30.
Oh, thank you.
So if we do this at 5,
Yeah, do the ribbon cutting. at
5 o'clock?
Yeah.
okay? Community center parking lot update?
I do have to go back to B because for the playground,
Yeah.
it is almost complete. we were able to have Total go in and put the asphalt walk. So it's in my price range, and we needed the playground done. And they were working over there. And then the remainder of the playground will be seeded within the next 2 days, or the next few days.
Nice.
So that's that.
And I just have one thing. I took my great-grandson over there to play,
Mhm.
and I noticed that there were a couple little girls playing, playing. And their mothers were not right there, they were kind of in the background. And they were sitting there pulling up the asphalt, pulling chunks out of the turf.
Sure. The little pieces that weigh
Yeah,
it
like,
down.
you know, the green things were
Yeah.
flying
Oh.
everywhere. So I'm just, I don't know what we can do about it, but,
You walk over there and use.
well, I did,
Parent.
trust me, I went over
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
said.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I said, you know, no, we don't do that.
Well, if people are letting their dogs go onto the
Well, yeah,
playground,
that too, I guess we have to
like,
put up
we'll-
a sign.
sign, yeah, we can put some signage.
I mean, is
additional
that
signage.
just because it's new? I mean, because the turf is pretty tough.
Yeah.
They were getting it, they were getting their little fingers right down in there,
That's so
yanking
funny.
it out, and I thought, oh, good God, we're gonna end up with little spots everywhere, so.
In 2
I
weeks.
did, I
Spots.
walked over there and said, you know,
Don't do
this is
that.
not real grass, this is not what we do, you know, so.
And 2 weeks ago, there was, I was over there talking to residents right by it, and all of a sudden I see this one kid, and he goes over the top of the tunnel. And then his little sister's getting ready to follow him, and I went over to find the parent, and it turned out to be a grandparent, grandma. And I said, they're going to have to come down from there, because if they fall, they're going to get hurt. Oh, I didn't think that would be a problem, you know, if they climbed over it. And it's like, you know what you want to
Something done with
say,
every
but you
playground.
bite your tongue, but it's like, okay, no, we just don't do that right there. We climb into it, not on top of it.
We don't. Another sign for that too, right?
Yeah, signs everywhere.
All right, thank you, Claire, on that.
All right.
On to the parking lot.
Yeah, so the community center parking lot is almost complete.
Right.
They are coming back because there is a little step difference. They're coming to fill in an area for us. And the wet area that was talked about over by the playground, they dried that out and they just covered that, and it was striped yesterday maybe, or the day before. It's very dirty right now because of Morton Street. I mean, it's sad to see that, but everything besides that is going good. So that is, we're very happy. And we probably need to talk about my emergency purchase.
Well, let's talk first about the drains.
The drains will be done, so right now they went up to them, they will cut them out, and then the cement will go around it. And it's normally about 8 feet, 8 to 10 feet, so it stays stronger. And that will be done within like the next week, depending on rain.
Well, they're asphalt now, but that's not the full, final plan.
No, no, it'll be cement around all of those drains,
In the back part of
in the back part, yeah.
All right, and then the next part was, we had an overage on cost, and I know you sent out an email to that, but just for the record here, can we talk about what happened when they started
Yes.
taking that down?
So what happens when you asphalt a parking lot is they mill it down, and our bid was for 2 inches. At 1.5 inches or less in a lot of areas, especially in the front parking lot, they just hit dirt. So they had to, that is not a good thing when you're milling and you're doing the parking lot. So a lot of extra asphalt was needed. So what I gave you that explained it was part of it. That wasn't even the part of the wet area, which is another donation from Total Asphalt, because they had to dig out a big hole and put 60 tons of additional asphalt that we weren't even charged for into that hole. But we couldn't just leave that parking lot is dirt. It needed to be completed. So that was when I agreed to go ahead. When they opened up the back drains too, those were all completely collapsed. We knew the top parts were, all of us, you could walk by it and you can see that, but we didn't understand that underneath it, they all needed to be rebuilt, so that was an additional cost too. But anytime anything came up, I mean, I was on site, so they would take me out, they showed me exactly what was happening, and we needed it done, so.
Well, and you called me and we talked through kind of,
Yeah.
what the situation was and why the situation was. And again, I certainly wasn't on site, but was concerned about making sure that we had it, work continuing to go in a safe manner. There was a question too, I know, about a donation amount here. And I think it's probably important that you clarify.
Yeah.
The cost versus what we're paying versus what it actually cost. if you
Right,
would.
so when I was out there talking to him, obviously I was like, oh, are you going to charge us a lot? Is this going to cost a lot? And so he settled at $10,000, even though it was at that time at least close to 14. So I just said, well, when you fill out that paperwork, make sure you put and let the commission know how much you're doing, gratis. It wasn't necessarily, I mean, they wrote the word donation, but it was, gratis to us because we have worked with them and,
It's more of a discount.
yes, a discount. Actually, I don't know how much 60 tons are, I guess it's on that piece of paper, we could add that up.
$30 a ton, so $1,800.
Yeah, so I mean, they did a lot, and they could have just topped it and walked away and let it try to dry on its own. Like, once you put that top cap on, it would have had a lot harder time to dry, and it was really, you could see it was puddling right up out of it, because it's just all clay under there or what have you. But, yeah, so I'm confident. They also used a nice heavy grade in the back parking lot because it is so traveled by Star Transportation and cars, a heavier road grade in the back parking lot. So, again, gratis, but they know. Well, just from looking at it, you could tell, so, that it's used and abused. So it should last for many years.
So from our additional approved quote from the fall, or the summer when we started this, there is an additional $10,000 that is being added on to that in the total cost of completing this project.
I'll make a motion to approve the extra $10,000 onto the contract for total asphalt paving for the community center parking lot.
Second.
I thought that was already approved in violation of OMA through emails.
We want to put it here in public record.
Mr. Stern, if you can weigh in on that, please, that you cannot, about voting.
Well, I did advise the commissioners about that that's not
We
that's
can't
not
do
a
it anymore.
practice we
right?
want to follow. When we have decisions to be made, we need to comply with the OMA, even though that may not always be convenient. We may also look at the purchasing policy and the director's authorizations to see what we might be able to do to accommodate these situations or handle these situations in the future. But for today's purposes, the expenditure has been incurred, and I think it is appropriate. In fact, I recommended to the chair that this commission should, after the fact, on the record, basically ratify what has happened in
Yes.
terms of approval. So I think the motion is in order.
Okay. And we had a second?
Mr. Billy?
And we have any additional discussion? And there is expenditure of funds, so we need to do it via roll call.
Mr. Billick?
Yes.
Ms. Getter?
Yes.
Mr. Dekowski?
No, because this was originally approved via an OMA violation.
Okay, so no?
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
And Zimmerman is a yes. Motion carries.
All right.
So, all right.
Tax ID letter to be signed.
The IRS just needs a letter signed from the chairman along with our new interlocal, once we get it with stars, sent. So I created it and brought it for you to sign with you.
Okay.
Mr. Stern, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't you handle that for Parks and Rec? Filing that paperwork?
That was done, and I believe, well,
That was done by you.
yeah, as far as the.
Oh, for tax exempt?
What, I didn't see the form, is it just the
They just wanted a letter.
So,
letter?
Yeah.
so the attorney should always
Called like
review.
SS4 form or something like that.
Yeah, I brought it.
Yeah, the attorney should always review these things that you're signing, especially when there's legalese behind it.
Sorry. This is it just says documentation from government unit. Do you want it or?
Yeah.
If it's
Let's-
something different, then by all means. I just thought it was the letter with the interlocal.
Okay, this is just to change the name.
Yeah.
We already have the tax.
Right.
exempt.
To change it, yeah, we have the number, so we just need the name.
And is there a letter that you've prepared?
Yes.
I'd like to see that.
Yeah.
I've done it before, and
Wait, I have to find it.
certain magic words that the IRS likes to
Oh, okay, yeah, no.
see.
For small
will.
words though, right, Bob? You don't, not too many syllables for
Not
you
not
Irish
real
guys?
big, not real big.
Oh, it's right here.
They don't want it too long, but you better have all the things that they do want in it.
Okay, well,
Short-
mine is
short's
short,
good.
sweet, So it just, I
Short's
know they
good.
wanted the previous name and the new name, but however we need to do it.
Well, maybe I'll try to help you with this, maybe get you something tomorrow.
But,
Perfect.
sure,
Thank you.
I mean,
you're probably going to want to hire me.
not much more
Run
complicated.
by it?
I'll make it up.
Okay, so we're going to make a note that Mr. Stearns handling that, and we're going to move to the next one, the commission calendar.
Okay, so the commission calendar, I am out of town on February 15th. So I don't know how this will go. A couple of things we probably need to think about is if I ever get sick, what happens if the director is not here? Does the meeting get canceled or does it go forward? Do I need to assign somebody from our office so that there's a representative here? Or, I mean, just things to think about.
Do you have someone in your staff that is privy enough to all of the things that we discuss at these meetings? If you are gone?
I think that,
Shaking your head, guys.
They all turned away.
all of them, I mean,
They all looked at each other.
What if all three of you show
they're
up?
absolute experts in different areas.
Right.
So Berna is the finance and the money part. So, I mean, I'm sure they'd all love to come on February.
So,
But,
Mr. Palmer, I would suggest that the director start grooming somebody in case, you always want to have your replacement, not to have the replacement, but somebody who can step in case you're not there.
Right. And if we get to, well, you'll know that in advance, right? I mean, you're knowing you're not going to be there in
Yeah.
February.
right,
Okay. So with that one, maybe we just.
Change the
Yeah,
meeting.
gives, well, I think if we have someone that,
oh, sure,
that you can,
yeah.
that week, how
have all
long
the
before that
paperwork.
are you gone? I mean, can you get them up to speed in a few days before, or are you weeks gone?
Oh, a couple weeks gone. But yeah, I mean, it'll be
Before or after?
before,
Before.
before. Yeah. So, but yes, I
So
feel like,
February 15th is the only issue, right now?
Right now?
Okay. Okay. So you might want to think about grooming somebody to
Mhm.
fill your
Yeah.
shoes. For that meeting
take
at
straw.
least.
We were wondering if the alternate will get our nameplate
Yeah,
That could help us decide.
absolutely.
Whether you should get it or if you get it, you're out.
Well, that's for us to decide.
All right.
Okay, so keep the date and groom.
All right. The accountant's salary, letter F.
So, this has been something that we had talked about with the old commission. We had hired in, well, a couple commissions now, we had hired in Berna as our accountant. And it was at a low rate, it was a trial basis with the thought process, if it was all going to work out, we were going to relook at her salary. Well, a lot of things have happened in the last couple of years, and that did not happen. One of the things that has happened, if you look like on page 3, there was an analysis, because of all these changes, it just kind of kept getting pushed off every year. But when we do look at it, like an average accountant pay is about $62,000, if you're looking at page 4. Looking at Indeed and ZipRecruiter and those, plus our past accountant's rate, where she was at $66,000. So what, actually Cindy Julie is our accounts payable, and Berna had looked at was, we do have some extra money in the budget because I take the general amount of hours that I think that the accounts payable is going to work. I multiply that out, and that's where the end product is in the budget. But our accounts payable hasn't had to work as much because Berna has been caught up or getting caught up and been able to get everything situated. So on page 2, you will see that there is extra money. Wait, it's not on page 2. The $6,272, sorry, yeah, would be that. That is the amount extra that is unused. So even if we took all of that or part of that, we could at this time, without making a budget amendment to a salary, be able to at least make a step in the right direction until April when we relook at all of everybody's salaries.
So if it pleases the commission, I have a write-up from Mrs. Knight, so I'd like to read that. Her comment, this raise should wait until we have a new accounting system and look at several other options. My question is she an accountant or is she a bookkeeper? Accountant is degreed. There's a big difference there. As you can see from the documentation Clara and Julie supplied, they are pushing for a raise. However, the new accounting system would require less work, be more efficient, and allow RecPro to connect directly to the system. So why give a raise now? Berna is a full-time and Julie is part-time. Julie wants to work less, so she gave some of her work to Berna. I think it was payroll with Kathy Boucher suggested we should have done by a service, and I agree. Outsourcing is much better for all. With a new accounting system and payroll service, we may be able to get 2 part-timers. Remember, the state of Michigan recommends keeping receivables and payables separate for safety reasons. In my humble opinion, we should not cut the part-time position in half, as these 2 could leave, then we would be stuck with it. Clara wants a 5% raise for part-time. Clara wanted the 5% raise for part-time, so if we give Berna a raise, well, the others come knocking. I understand she was promised more money when she got the job, and she needs it, but that is not how we run our budgets. So now I'm going to give you my comments. So this was an issue that Mr. Philbrook and I discussed thoroughly, and he was wholeheartedly opposed to this right here. And he said, and I says, all right, can we come to a compromise? Because he wanted to do 3% across the board. And I says, well, how, we want to keep our part-timers, we want to keep them happy and keep them here. So let's give them 5%, and that's going to get them, towards the upper end of the scale. And so that's where we had, and that's what was approved in the budget, and that's were the amounts. Now, to take money and to just move it from this area to this area is not good accounting, nor you're defeating the complete purpose of what a budget is for. If you can just take money and say, well, I didn't use it here, I'm going to use it here. No, what you do is you just don't spend that money, but that doesn't give you the right to spend it in other areas because that budget's already been approved by both township boards. And that's my comments.
Thank you.
Just one other thing. It's not, well, last year, I tried to put COLA, or an 8%, looked at it because COLA matched what the survey matched for all of the full-time staff. Also looked at it for permanent part-time staff. And yes, it was discussed. So 3% went to the full-time staff, 5% went to the permanent part-time staff, which, again, any move forward is always positive. This isn't about that necessarily. This is about, honestly, what I think you should do. I think that you should look at the average and actually bring the accountant where she should be. But that means a budget amendment. So moving or doing amendments from within the budget, reallocating money seems like a very good idea. It is not because of the 3%. It is because for the last 2 years, because of the issues with the townships and us getting to the point that we have a 5-person commission, she got lost in the paperwork, is what happened. So I would like to see something done. And if it's something right now and then we relook at it in April, and it's not because she needs it, it's because she deserves it. And yes, she does have a degree.
May I speak on my behalf?
So when we looked at the budget and what was presented to us for here's our comparables, there were no comparables from our area. It was, I went to this site, I went to this site, and they were all slanted numbers. So they weren't done independently by somebody who had no skin in the game, that somebody who wants to be totally objective. These are not, these are very biased numbers that were presented.
Well, the comparables were, just so everybody knows, there's something called MRPA. It's the Michigan Recreation and Park Association. Those were from those surveys. Now, not very many parks and recreation departments, because we are set up situatedly different with the 3 different areas, have their own accountant. So there's not a big area in there where you can look and say, we picked out like budgets and like populations. So I don't know how you could get more apples to apples when it comes to recreation departments in Michigan than using the Michigan Parks and Recreation for that survey information. Berna's, or for accounting, I went to the places that we all go to, ZipRecruiter, the Indeeds, to see where they were at in this area, because you can go in and filter it in some cases, and they came up. So this one is Sterling Heights. I think I tried to get, this is a municipality, and then
With
this one is
80,000
Washington
residents.
Township. So while looking at those sites, so that I could get you a fair number, plus looking at the past accountant, what she had been making, what we should have done, looking back, we should have started her at a correct price, and then we wouldn't even be at this situation. There was just a lot going on, and it just didn't happen. So,
Yeah.
Amen.
Bruno? What is your degree?
I have a bachelor's in business administration with a major in accounting.
Let me say something before.
Sure.
This is a subject that I can speak on with authority. I am a bookkeeper. I am not an accountant. I do not have a degree. I make way more per hour than she does. Way more.
And I carry payroll, HR.
I
I'm-
have done all that
Yeah.
in my prior job. I had full office administrative responsibility. But I was not, I am not, do not have a degree. And that was 10 years ago, and I made more than she's making today per hour.
Thank you.
So I don't think that bumping her up some is horribly outrageous. Having the degree, having done the job well, as far as I know, over her tenure, I don't have an issue with it. I don't have an issue with moving the money from one account to the other. That's my opinion.
I would imagine the money's all in the same account. It would be salaries, under
Yeah.
the accounting salaries. So, I mean, it is in that realm, whether it's spent on 3 people or 1 person. doesn't make-
Changing it from part-time to full-time, right, that's all.
Yes.
Shouldn't make a difference.
And yes, there could be new systems brought in that may make my job easier. Maybe I'll get tasks done on time, because right now I am tasked, but I do it and I get it done. You know, I took this as a show of good faith when I accepted to go from part-time to full-time, because it was a needed position. I already had the background being there doing payables. We were in constant turmoil, and we didn't need the grief of fighting for more at the time. So after it worked out, you know, and I've been patient for 2 years, I've been waiting, and I am severely underpaid. I'm about poverty level, if you must know. And that's because I like what I do. I like the people I work for. I mean, I love my job, but I can do this job higher paid elsewhere without some of the grief that comes with it. Will we get a new system? Yes, but who's going to do the work to transfer from one system to the other? If you need to bring in a temporary service to cover, you know, say I were to go, and you need to bring in a temporary service, how much is that going to cost the residents? I watch every dollar. I have saved money. I do the best job I can, whether I'm paid for it or not, and I will continue to do so. However, I am severely underpaid, and 2 years is a long time to wait.
I will tell you, we did look at an accounting system with Kathy Boshears, and the cost of that is huge compared to what we can do, again, in-house. And sometimes we just need to keep it in-house, so. And yeah, she does a great job.
You know, when IT, I went over to Star to hook up their printer. There's things I can do, and I help in any department. So it's not like that's just what I do, but I like to be good at what I do. I like to be needed. I've done my due diligence, and I just ask that you guys do yours.
And as far as the other staff, I will
That was the
say,
next question.
they absolutely deserve to be looked at in April. We need to look at the survey again and make sure that everybody is where they're at when there isn't all of the chaos that was going on, so that we can have a good conversation about it. And I'm not trying to, you know what I mean, overjump any of them. It's the person who is not where they should be, at least to a point where they should be, is what we need to do. We need to do something right now, and then closer to budget time, relook at everything again, so. I'm done.
Well, I'll make a motion that we utilize that unspent money
6272.60.
to add to Myrna's salary for the remainder of the year, right? Is that, and revisit the issue when I would imagine in next budget year, we'll revisit everyone.
Right.
Right. Except you.
Right.
You would have to put a dollar amount to that, sir.
Yep, I put 6272.60, $6,272.60.
Got it.
Second.
Okay, if we can,
Mr. Billick,
Yes.
Ms. Gittert,
Yes.
Mr. Dukowski,
I agree she needs an adjustment, but this is not the proper time. No.
Mr. Palmer,
yes.
and Ms. Zimmerman is a yes. Motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, on to unfinished business. We had an update on property leases, and that was, for the Village of Romeo, was Mrs. Knight and myself. And we met twice with, well, first we met with Ms. Poznansky from the Village of Romeo. From that meeting, we then met with their park subcommittee to talk about this particular, and that was the south building being given back to them. That was a letter that is needed that states that we no longer want that sent. And then the building that we currently occupy for Parks and Recreation, looking and relooking at that lease and making it aligned with our millage votes to make it, right now it's currently a 99-year lease. After that park meeting, it was well received. It was taken back to their full village board, and the email that I received back was paraphrasing that essentially their attorney, Mr. Clark, suggested that both townships would also need to agree to the changes. And when it was mentioned that they're no longer guarantees of the commission given our status, there was still, from his perspective, a want of our attorney, Mr. Sterin, and himself, Mr. Clark. The village wanted those two to have a look at that and give us some recommendations. So we do not have any further movement towards that other than a directive to have yourself, Mr. Sterin, meet with the village attorney, Mr. Clark, and do what you
I'll be happy to
do.
do that if that's what the commission would like.
I'll make a motion to direct Mr. Sterin to meet with Mr. Clark and report back at the next meeting.
Second.
Any discussion more on that, other than what I was stated? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. There was also, the Washington Township was the second one, and that was one that would have come under our purview as well. I have not made that contact with anyone there, so I don't have anything further to report that needs to happen.
Could I just comment on Washington Township? So recently, they're making some changes. Some changes to the senior center. Different doors are being placed in there so that it can be more secured. There were cameras that were put in to the senior center rooms. And then they're taking the upstairs room, which there's a second level. We use the lower level, then we use the main level, then we use the upper level. Those rooms were built for the recreation department so that we could have activities. But they've grown so much that they need additional space. At first, we thought they were going to take the basement back, but as it turns out, they need the upstairs. So we have until the end of the year. We've been working on it. Lynn and Becky and all of the staff are, we've split the rooms in half on the first level so that we can accommodate. We don't want any of the groups not to be able to participate in activities. So we are probably going to be looking at buying some partitions or some type of thing to split the areas a little bit. So if you're playing pinochle over here, you can have a sense of privacy if you're doing bunco over here. So we're going to make it work because we make anything work. But just so that you know, one of the reasons I think that an agreement also is necessary with Washington Township is so that, you know, if they need space, absolutely they need space. But, you know, we should have conversation about it so that, you know, we know what's happening or we have an agreement or whatever.
We need note and time.
Yes,
Like-
time, yeah.
You've got programs scheduled. I mean, it's not an overnight thing.
Right, right. And it's like anything, when you're sharing a space, and we are definitely sharing a space, if they're putting all new locks and alarms and different things on their building, these are costs that we don't have in the budget and we're really going to have to look at. And you know what I mean? We're going to have to amend, or they're adding a new sign out front. If we want to use it, we're going to have to pay for part of the sign.
Cost share is going to be 40% on that sign.
So, but again,
I'm just letting you
only
know.
I know about the sign. Do you know what I mean? And I only know about the sign because I bumped into that meeting. You know, so we,
Out front,
yeah, we do need to,
They're putting in a new electronic sign.
sign out front.
yeah, it will be great. And it's a great spot for it, for sure. So we want to work with them and we always have worked with them. So it's just that, I guess my input here is that a lot of changes are happening. So I just think it would be good, yeah, that if we definitely meet.
Together with
And
them.
Mr. Chairman, and if I may, so I'm going to go back to a conversation you and I had where you said you didn't know anything about the room upstairs. And quite honestly, I didn't either. So I may humbly suggest that there's a meeting, that the chair be notified prior to the meeting happening, so that if you wish or you wish another member to participate, you can ask the right questions, get the information in that, and you are then involved instead of being, nobody likes to be blindsided, right?
Absolutely,
So it's full transparency then.
absolutely. I agree. Thank you.
Now, the rooms upstairs, once they take them back, you mentioned like signing out, would you still be able to use them at certain times or not at all?
Well, that,
It's turning
No,
into a
I don't
storage
think so.
area, so no.
yeah.
Oh, no.
From what I've heard, no.
Okay.
It's going to be storage for election equipment or something. So
Yeah, and for
they keep
counting
it so nobody-
votes and,
Okay, yeah, that's got to be locked up.
Yeah, with the elections now going to 9 days and having to have additional equipment. And then yesterday, we just approved an agreement with Bruce and with Hooray that we would be the hub for the voting. So, and they're looking to us because we're the larger township, right? And we're a little bit more finance, so it's kind of to help them out, right?
We need another 2-minute break, 3-minute break, please. And then we'll come back and we'll have B through G in the unfinished business. yet, so I'm confident tonight.
Let's try to get out of here by 8.
I don't know about that, but, yeah, I don't know about that.
I can do it.
All right, we are back in session and on letter 9B, which is the update on the Romeo Community Schools Agreement. Ms. Gettert, Mr. Billick, how's that coming along?
We have met with the school twice. The last time was also with all of the groups that, provide soccer and baseball. Determine what everybody's needs are. We have our next meeting is scheduled for, is it October 4th?
Yeah, I don't know the exact date, but the first week in October.
Yeah.
I'll send it out. He's
And
just getting back to us.
what we want to start at that point is hammering out what we need. The way it appears is we need to let them know what our needs are, what our expectations are, and then they can look at it and determine if it's appropriate. No, I mean, I guess
Yeah.
the bottom line, they are very cooperative, and certainly, as one of the gentlemen that was here earlier said, we all pay school tax and things like that, and so those facilities are available. So, yeah.
But you've had a positive dialogue thus far.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
So who are you meeting with at the schools?
Mr. Todd.
Dr. Robbins.
Todd Robinson? Okay.
Sorry.
And then what about the treasurer of the school board? Is he
No.
involved in these meetings?
No, not yet. I think the next person that Dr. Robinson wanted to involve was the
Grounds person.
Storm,
Yeah, the
the maintenance
Operations.
supervisor.
operations manager. Because they have plans like, Washington Township.
Like Bruce, like
Right,
everybody else,
like
right?
everybody else, to take certain things offline, put certain other things online. So it's just coordinating that, and, making sure that there's adequate notification and that everybody can live with it.
So we have been paying money all these years, and I understood that there was already like a handshake type of agreement on what we could have, but I don't know what that handshake agreement meant. So so I know we gave them money this year, a lot of money. So what are we allowed to do at this point?
Well, we have access, the last agreement was from 2011. So that agreement has just been kind of let it ride type of thing.
Right, but the money's been paid every year.
Right.
It is.
So I'm asking what we're getting for that money.
Well, the pool is a big item, and that's something that we certainly couldn't replicate without them.
I can help if you
Yeah,
like.
go ahead.
Gym space is huge.
Yeah, so with the schools, the Parks and Recreation Department wouldn't be where we were at without the schools. They get first use, and then Parks and Recreation gets second use, and then anybody else comes in after that. So we use their gyms, we use all of the ball fields for all of the groups, the athletic recreation groups in the area, the volunteer, for soccer, all of the green space, pretty much anything that we want, we're able to use. We use Barnable Field for our Easter egg hunt. We're back there again with, now that it's open and there's turf. So we need this relationship, there's no doubt about that. I think that even with the commission, with the pool, we've talked about that, and that is moving forward too. So we're meeting and discussing and want to keep the relationship exactly as it is, if we can, or better, for both sides.
Right. And they also feel they need this agreement too. So it's not like we're pushing it just ourselves.
I guess we did a look-see at other communities, and we're going to look at Shelby, okay? Shelby allows their Parks and Rec to use, and they have an agreement there, but they allow them to use their facilities at no cost, because the residents have already paid their taxes on it. So why are we paying twice
Well,
to use something?
basically for certain things, for example, there are certain things that, I mean, they're looking at it from a business perspective, if you will, as to whether or not, what's their usage on this, and if they can't justify that, you know, but we can use it and we can give them some support for it, then that keeps those facilities available. Again, you know, the pool.
Right. Taxes are paid for education with the schools. Even if there wasn't a recreation department, the taxes would be the same that they are for education. We're coming in after hours and using any crevice that we possibly can for residential discretional time, and that is different than education needs. So if we had to pay an hourly rate for a gym, I mean, we would be paying a lot more than the amount that we pay each year for the use of it, so.
I just want to know, with you talking to Shelby, what programming do they use the schools for? What specific programs?
I don't have that list. I don't have that information. What we were told was that Parks and Rec is not charged anything.
I'm just curious, because I know they have a community ed.
Okay, maybe if we can get this on recording.
That's fine.
So I'm sharing information of stuff that we found out.
Okay, I'm just curious. Penny Ganfield, Washington Township, work for Parks and Recreation. I'm just interested to know, because I know Shelby runs their programming. They have some facilities, but I also know that Shelby has, like, they use community ed for some of their camps, or like not necessarily Shelby Township. I'm not sure of the relationship. But I just wonder if they're using the facilities at the capacity that we are directly out of Shelby Township Parks and Recreation. That's what I'm curious to
That would probably be
know.
some very good questions that you could direct right to the Shelby Parks and Rec and ask them.
Oh, I'm just curious because you're stating it. So I want to
No,
know if you're going to compare our department to
I
them.
did not make a comparison. What I said was they are not charging them to use.
Right, but that's what I mean. So I would just want to know, like, we use them for
Yeah,
pretty
so
much
if you want
everything.
further information, I suggest reaching out to Shelby Parks and Rec, and I'm sure they'd be happy to share that.
Oh, I'm sure. I'll talk to Joe. Thanks.
Thank you. Anything more on that?
No.
All right. Update on the bylaws, Mrs. Zimmerman? Mr. Sterin?
After we talked about them at the last meeting, I made the final changes and sent it back to Mr. Sterin to review, and that's where we sit. So,
And I had no further changes. We spent a lot of time on the bylaws, I think, at the last meeting, maybe the last couple, but certainly the last meeting. The principal change that was made since the last meeting is because we had the
name change.
we had, it was still, the ink was still wet on the brand new restated interlocal agreement, so we needed to plug in the reference to Star Transportation throughout the document where appropriate. But none of the other provisions that we discussed at the last meeting were changed, none of the substantive things. All those changes that were discussed were incorporated, and I'm satisfied they've all been incorporated in this document, unless the commission has any further questions, modifications, comments about it. I think we've got a pretty good set of bylaws here to.
Mr. Sterin, I do have one comment. I would like to see the latest and greatest email to the complete board for our review. Because I don't have it.
Well, it didn't come from me, it came from Ms. Zimmerman, and I think it was sent out on August 20th.
Okay, so if we're discussing something that should be in the board packet, and it's not. So I don't know, I hear it went directly from her to you. So I'm again requesting that a copy of the latest, greatest, be emailed to the complete board.
That's fine, Ms. Zimmerman, I was under the impression that it was emailed to Select Board. as
I
well
believe
as
it was,
me.
I'm checking.
And if that didn't happen, I agree that it should, but that was my assumption, Mr. Kowski. That it wasn't just going to me, it was going to everybody.
There was quite a bit, period of time, Mr. Farren, that I was not getting emails, that I was totally locked out, and that the information was not communicated to the full board, so therefore, I did not get a lot of information for almost 2 months. So this is why I'm asking for it, sir. So you can dig through all you want, Phyllis.
You're right, it didn't, no, you're right, you're correct. It only went to John. I will make sure that it goes out to him.
Thank you.
Okay, so- and then we'll leave that on for next month
Table it
as
to the
well.
next meeting.
Okay. And the organizational chart was also Mrs. Zimmerman.
Yeah, and we did talk about this at the last meeting, and I don't think anybody had any problem with it, except
No.
that we didn't actually adopt it. So it's, I don't know if we have to, or does it just go into the, I don't know. That was my question, that's why it's on there. So we just put it in the file and that's that,
Put it in the
okay.
file.
That would be.
All right, that's fine, I just want to get it off my list of potential things to do. Okay.
All right, next on the list, Mr. Billick, the benefits package.
Yeah, Verna and Clara and myself met with, well, I was present with two, and I think the third one, company you got today, correct?
Yes, it finally came in today.
Okay, so, I mean, basically, since we're having to provide the benefits, not through Washington Township as has been done in the past, we've got the current insurance company that provides the insurances for Washington, Bruce, and so he knew the coverage and started pricing it out for us. And two other companies doing the same thing. There's no real sense in looking at the price because there's no way we can get a price that they had previously. That is a much larger organization, much longer standing with the company, things like that. So that really is not something that we just need to, I think, move forward and look at what's available. We want to keep the coverage as close to what they have now as possible. And Verna, you have put together a chart and more information than I could probably do.
Yeah, basically, if you have your chart in front of you, the first column is going to show you what we're currently paying, which is a group rate, and everybody in the group, if you're a family, it doesn't matter if you have 3 people in your family or 5, your rate is going to be the rate. Now, we were actually surprised with the new rates and being a small group that we were actually able to drop down a little bit. The problem is, if you look, I only gave you the main pages of the current and proposed benefits. It's really the nuts and bolts of it is both the current and the proposed have a $2,000 one-person deductible, $2,000 individual, $4,000 family. The current plan has a $3,000 annual max out-of-pocket and a $6,000 for family. No plan offers that right now. So the new one is a $4,500 max out-of-pocket for one person and $9,000 per family. So that's, right now we have a health reimbursement account that covers the max out-of-pocket of the $6,000. But in taking their rates, which are now based on age and the age of the children in the home, if you look at, I broke it down by month, what our health reimbursement is. So for $6,000 for the year is $500 a month we get in the health reimbursement. But it does include vision, which no new Blue Cross plan will include vision. But if you look at the end, I put the proposed group rate of what, and it's based on the age of the, what do they call us, the subscriber, and then the children, go under it, spouse and children by their ages too. So employee one is actually going to drop down like $900, but in order to keep the health reimbursement to cover we were covering our $6,000 max out of pocket, to cover the $9,000 max out of pocket is a $750 increase, but with adding the vision of $10 for that family, that rate is still coming in. It's $1944.25, which is still cheaper than what we were paying to be on the group, which was very surprising to me. And all three people came in, basically said, this plan is the closest to your plan. Blue Cross is switching to 80/20s mostly, and we may not even see these rates come January 1st. Everyone's hoping that they're still going to keep the 100%, but it could change there. The second person is a two-person, and again, based on age, but so they will go up about $300, but then our third family also drops for, net savings of about $200 a month, $187 a month, which leads me to the next thing that our employees have. If you elect not to take the insurance, which is going to save us, let's say $1,500 a month per employee, they currently receive a stipend which covered like half, or it covered the $3,000, so half of what we get for our health reimbursement. So to be fair to them, if you move them, actually it was 60% it covered because it was $302 and I did the percentages. So monthly, if you move them from $302 to $500, to still give them some incentive to stay off of the insurance and keep, rather than them jumping on and being duly insured and costing us more money, to make these changes that were proposed, we actually only go backwards $406 a month, which I was really anticipating a $400 a month per person increase.
I thought it'd be way more, yeah.
I was astounded to get the rates, and it's because it goes by, I guess a large group, they're lumping you all in one. So if you have 8 kids, you're paying the same as if you have 1 child on a family plan. So that's their benefit, to not have to insure each individual kid. But then, as we have older kids, they fall off. Younger kids are insured for less. So yeah, I was surprised.
None of the bidders quoted anything except the Blue Cross Blue Shield plan?
They did. One person did try to steer us towards HAP, but being there is only, and it's not much of a price increase. The only difference being that it would be an HRA. We currently have an HRA, which is a card that we use at the time of service, whatever, and then the company gets billed that month for that amount. All the plans now they're coming out with are the HSA, where it's a front-end load to the card, so kind of the same. But instead of us paying monthly, we front-end load the cards and the money still sits there, so we're able to use it for our deductibles and co-pays. We also looked at 80/20 plans because basically if you have a card that's going to cover your max out-of-pocket anyhow, it doesn't really matter if you go 80/20 or 100%. So we looked at those. Some had lower deductibles. The problem was the max out-of-pocket was like $12,000, $15,000, and $18,000. So that's why those were cast out. And with the going to Health Alliance plan was, there's 3 of us on there. So we all checked with our current doctors and providers, and none of us would be able to keep any of the providers that we had. So, and the price was, like I said, comparable. The only difference would be to keep the HRA over the HSA. So I know this is last minute, so we don't have to make a decision today, but this was basically, there's a ton of other plans out there, and I have a book about this thick because I've been going through them every night at home to try to, make sure. But everyone said this one, apples to apples, is the closest we could get. And the cost, I'm actually shocked still that we were able to not get really whacked with it.
So given the change of the new year, when you do have to make this decision, when would they have rates that you would,
The new
during
rates,
the open enrollment?
the new rates will be out October 1st, so I can bring those to the next meeting. And that's when I figure we can probably make a decision on this. If you guys want to see another plan, I have gone through them all. And like I said, the max out-of-pockets are huge. The $9,000 for a max out-of-pocket for family was the cheapest, and it is the $2,000, $4,000 deductible. The only thing that really changed on the plan was the max out-of-pocket for us. Now, we will have to add on the vision, but when I looked at the vision plans, we do have a few employees who take vision and dental outside of medical. They don't elect for that. So for that, we have to look to an outside source. But even now, being with Washington, we have principal for dental, not Blue Cross. There's lots of VSP plans out there. It doesn't have to be Blue Cross. And Blue Cross no longer holds the vision. So we can go any way we want with it.
Table discussion, table final discussion on this matter to the October meeting.
Okay, I'd like to add some information for you, because this is a great benefit. I have Blue Cross Blue Shield in my company. And I've had Blue Cross Blue Shield in my earlier years. They're really good to work with. The one thing that Blue Cross Blue Shield does that none of the other ones do is they usually assign you to a health advocate. And here's a number, and if you're going to have surgery or anything like that right there, you can call them ahead of time and tell them what they need. They can look in your area, see what they have, make sure that you're covered. Because like I had to have a procedure a couple years ago, and the person who did the anesthetics was outside of network. And it's like, well, wait a minute, how would I know that? So now I would suggest calling them, and checking with them and see if they do have that option available with it. Because I know Blue Cross Blue Shield, ours is out of Texas, does offer that, and it's a great benefit, and you guys would get a lot of good use out of it.
Yeah, we don't get that currently with Washington Township that I'm aware of, but.
There is a new law about no surprise medical billing, and that.
That hasn't gone into effect yet.
Yeah.
It has?
Yeah,
Okay.
and so if the doctor that's doing your procedure calls in a doctor that's not in your plan, and he tries to charge you, he has to accept the in program.
Okay.
So,
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
so, yeah, so, now that doesn't, I don't know how they police that. Whether if the guy comes in and says hi to you before he puts you out, if that's, notifying you that he's not in your plan.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But, it's a great benefit with Blue Cross Blue Shield to have a health
Yeah, I have
advocate.
Blue Cross.
Because if you're going to have a hip replacement, or let's say you got to have a heart procedure done or anything like that right there, they can steer you to the right people, and so that you get the maximum amount of coverage. Because that's what we're talking about here, is the maximum amount of coverage for the least amount of cost, because nobody wants to, health costs are just through the roof. We all know that right there, and it takes a burden on all of us.
Yeah, that's why this was shocking to me, and I
Yeah.
went over it
Information.
and called each of them again, just to make sure that I had this right. But,
Yeah, so maybe check into that.
okay.
It might work out for you good.
Is there anything else you guys want me to look at before next month on this? I mean,
Just if you can get the new pricing.
Yeah, the updated pricing.
yep, I'll get them October 1st.
So we have a motion, we have a second, we had some discussion. There is no money on this one,
What
so
is the motion again, please?
To table it.
table it until next month. So all in favor of tabling it till next month, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We have a revised interlocal agreement, Mr. Starron. I think that was something you had to work through.
Getting this, we had to get the signed copy, right, from.
You're gonna-
Right, and that's
File it.
been done, and it's been filed with the, with the Secretary of State and with the county clerk, so it is complete and done.
Okay.
And do you have a copy that you can send to the commission, please? You can
Certainly,
email to the commission?
certainly.
Thank you.
So we actually can take one off the list.
Yes.
Well, can,
Feels kind of good.
is that, can we change our check signers then? Now, if it gets approved, if everything's.
First,
For Star?
we need to go.
Oh, for Star, yeah.
Back to the
Yeah.
bank.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think everybody's.
okay. Letter G, employment agreement and job description approval.
Can you look that over yet, Clara, or?
Oh, I did, is it possible can I look it over a little bit longer?
Sure.
Yes.
I mean,
Yep, no problem.
I don't think that there's anything wrong with it, I just really haven't.
I know, that's fine.
Kind of long.
A motion to table this,
very
a
long.
motion to table this to the next meeting?
Okay. I'll second that motion. Any other discussion on that? All in favor of tabling till the next meeting?
Aye.
Any opposed? We're tabling. We're skipping H's until the next meeting, so we know that. That's in the message. So we're in the review of the tasks and motions chart. So are we on the ones without motion or the ones passed?
First one is the without motion. Unless anybody has any changes, notices that something is complete that I don't have marked as complete, this was my best guess at the status of everything. So,
So not really anything to do on this.
No, it's just to.
no, just to
keep
look
us
at it unless
knowing what
some,
we're
like I
doing.
said, if something it looks like it's still pending, but you know it's done, then we'll change it.
Okay, so motion to receive and file?
Okay, we have a motion,
Second.
second by Mr. Delac.
Hang on, slow down. Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Filed and moved.
Okay. Now, the motions, again, it's, now, some of these statuses have changed as of tonight,
Right.
but if anybody has any other changes that they recognize that need to be done, somebody let me know.
So you're going to go in and make the motions
Yes.
based on tonight's?
Correct. After the
Work.
meeting, and I'll send it out with the minutes.
Then I will amend my motion to include tonight's meeting.
All right. I think I second.
Okay, you're going to put both sheets on the one motion?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, so I'll amend my motion, so,
Okay.
yeah, that's if Mr. Palmer wants to second it.
I'll amend my second.
Okay.
Then I'm
All
gonna
in
vote.
favor of both of those together? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. The master plan, I know we've had some work on that. I wondered, Claire, if you might give us a little bit of kind of an update of where we are with that?
Yeah, so really, we're at the point with the master plan that we can take it to the boards to have it approved and then submit it to the state. But we didn't have a lot of time to look at the survey information when it came in, so we did compile it, and I brought it.
So this master plan that you're handing out has a 5-year lookout to all the parks too?
So, yep, we'll get to that. One of the things that was in the original master plan that we had worked on, but I did kind of look at it after looking at the survey and after, kind of where we went, because now we have an engineering firm and we've been looking at the different parks. However, today I did notice, so on the very back staple, the front are the goals, which I just figured if you guys want to look them over and like next meeting, we can, we went through those and I think they're where we want to go. We want to move forward, we want to move forward together. The survey is here. It's very interesting. It is on our website. It is compiled, like I said, because we had a lot of questions that were individual answers. So it was like 80 pages long where it really should be 40. So we took those answers and we put them together. So if they were like, they wanted walking paths, but they said it a different way, we just put them all together and combined them. So you'll see those questions that are in there. But on the goals and strategies, behind it is the list that Dan was talking about. It goes through each park, and it kind of puts a high, medium, and low on what we're looking at. So at Bruce Township Park, we're talking about the water bottles and dog fountain, the security cameras, connecting a path, ADA accessible play piece, a top playground piece, turf on the playground, if that's what we're looking at doing, permanent restrooms, and pave the small parking lot that we have here. So then you'll see on the far right, it says, which ones are really important. And so obviously bringing water to the park and security cameras are very important to us at this point because we have had a lot of vandalism at our parks. The mediums would be connecting the path. I think it's important. I think that we'll have more places for benches and just to walk, so you can walk a complete full circle or you can walk half a circle if you want to. So that is on, with Bruce Park, I don't think that there's really anything else that we're looking at adding. It's a passive park, it's huge with soccer and it's got a great pavilion. So I think we're okay right there. Crystal Diamonds is a sports complex. You'll go through that. I think we're kind of set. One of the things that we've been talking about, because the school is using their space now, and some of it is taking away some of the athletic space, that we still have a huge group of people within this community that plays recreation ball. And if we didn't have the school's fields, they wouldn't be able to do that. So we are looking at like what assets do we have, Crystal Diamonds being one of them, that we could add lights to the 3 fields that are out there, and it would give you, it's like you have 6 fields, if not 9, because you can play when it gets a little bit darker. So that is on there, covering the dugouts. Extending the irrigation, because we do have it in the soccer field area. We'd want to pull it to the ball field area. Adding small playground piece. I mean, you can read through those. Same thing with some fencing and gates, permanent restrooms at a certain point. We do use Don's, Little John's, and they're fantastic and have, anytime that there's an issue, they're like, come out for us. But I know that we are moving towards permanent restrooms at our parks, and it's, Washington will probably be, or, well, actually, Washington or Gilcher will be our first ones that we look at, and, you know, we'll see how it goes.
So the parks that you have in the master plan for those services, do we have water and sewer available there? And have we figured in a cost on, if we don't, what it's going to take to drag those lines over there?
No, but because we now use, we've never had an engineer before. This, anything in a master plan, the whole idea is like, these are estimated costs that you see there. So we're going to have to go get costs for anything that we're going to do on these. But these were that the company that we used to do the master plan, they came up with these costs. Are they right? I'm not sure, but they are an educated guess.
Yeah, because looking at the driveway just for Crystal Diamonds, how long that driveway is and how much was spent at Romeo, you're probably looking at 400,000 plus in that driveway because it's so long. 'Cause that's the one on the north side of 33, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so that's a lot of space there, and it could be up to $1 million, $1 million too.
Yep.
So
Well,
just,
like I said, we would have to get, we have a lot of space at the community center too, or if you look at Washington Township too, but we'd just have to look at that and make a decision at that time. So,
Well, and
again,
Paved doesn't necessarily mean fully asphalt either.
right,
It
exactly.
could be limestone or
Mhm.
whatever, so.
So then we go to Gilcher Park, and obviously we have the pavilion. We're going with the warm-up kitchen, permanent restrooms, permanent storage, drinking fountains, water bottle fountains, security cameras, a tot playground piece. I think that it's important at all of our playgrounds. One of the things in Washington was probably our smallest playground because it was our first playground that was put in. And I can't say it was a top playground, but it was it was a warmer place to bring your kids when they were really little. Now, our big playground, it is a big playground. Like even the ones around here, when my kids were little and we first built them, like they seemed gigantic, you know, when you bring a 2 or 3-year-old to them. So I think it would be good for us to add some type of tot feature to all of our areas and/or accessible features. I mean, it's great we have the accessible playground, but, you know, maybe we put in an accessible glider or what have you, and we look at that in the future. So you'll see that throughout all of the parks. A second driveway, because that was one of the things that we had discussed, but I think we're back down to just one big driveway at Gilcher,
Gilcher,
unless
yeah.
something changes. Paving that driveway, again, the money part is wrong. there, we can have that corrected. And honestly, if we look through these and we want to correct the prices that are there, it's not too late to do that, you know, these
You
are.
haven't submitted it yet.
Right, no. Permanent cornhole, that's just been something that people have talked about at the different parks. They're made out of cement. It's kind of just a nice feature, but installing lights, again, we have the two fields there that we could use. It's another capital improvement. The capital improvement's already there. We would just be adding lights, yeah. So, outside fitness stations, ADA playground turf, if we were going to add that there instead of adding an entire new playground, you know, that adds accessibility to it. Pickleball courts, if we were going to add some more, they were there. But, you know, like Larry had talked about earlier, he suggested that maybe we try to get some up on the north end. I mean, we have the one at Orchard Hills, and it is going to be fenced in, and that part is in here, but, you know, where else can we do it? So that is something that we're looking at, or will need to look at, so. And, you know, I know in conversation, like Memorial Field across the street from us, that was kind of mentioned, what's that going to be used for or whatnot? Maybe that would be a good spot for it, or at the community center. But that's not in there, so maybe we need to do that. I did make some changes, and I think you see them on where I kind of feel like installing lights needs to be a high priority for us now, just because we are losing fields, and we need to work with the community on that, and then adding the fencing, however it be. Maybe it's not the entire thing, but we add fencing so it deters people from doing anything they shouldn't do.
Right.
And then we go back to Orchard Hills Park. And again, those are pretty much all the same. Installing electric lights that's been needed for a while. We have done some solar lighting out there. It didn't work the best for us. And if we are going to add security cameras, which we really could use out there as well, we need to do that. Fence the athletic court, like we talked about. That's the pickleball and basketball. Basketball standards, just adding new ones to the playground or the one that is already there, a tot piece. Going through these, I don't want to read them all to you, but the Romeo Community Center building, we need to replace some of our movable walls that are in there. What that does is it gives us the opportunity to have multi-purpose rooms. So if we need a huge room, we use it. If not, we cut it down, just like we were talking about at Washington. Update our indoor restrooms. We need to redo our wood floor, like actually all the way down instead of just like scratching it up and putting a buffer on top of it. Replace all our carpet. Actually, we'd like to get rid of all of our carpet. We've been using that vinyl flooring, and it's just a great way to conserve money, and it's an easy clean. Security cameras, Romeo Community Center Park. We really, really need to lengthen our sledding hill, if at all possible, so that I can sleep in the winter. But no, it's a great hill.
That's how it helps.
But I know, it's just fast. So if we moved it back to move the dirt that we had, and we make it just a long toboggan run that's still fast, but maybe not as fast. It would be a very good thing. Adding a top play piece, like we had talked about, the security cameras, possibly adding an electric sign at that location, a smaller one. Replace the smaller pavilion with a larger pavilion, some storage areas, and possibly a path. I'm not sure. We have no walking path there, but it is a place that a lot of people come to. It would be great to have somewhere to walk. So these are the items that we looked at, and the plan for that it's going to go into. And I think we're pretty mark on most of them. A basketball hoop, that was the only thing. Someone had mentioned that we really don't have a place to play outside basketball on the south end. However, we have a lot of schools. Like Washington Elementary School is right at, so we have that. And we have always used the elementary schools as our playgrounds. I mean, that's those were our playgrounds in the very beginning before we even had any. So,
Laura, can the seniors, just go over there and start playing them, or, people 30, 40, 50, can they just go over there and start playing on them, on the school's basketball courts?
yeah. So, like,
At the
well,
schools?
not normally during the day, nobody
No,
is
not during
really-
the day, but I
Yeah,
mean
but
at
at
the
nighttime,
schools.
yeah, we can go play basketball or do whatever. That's why I was a little bit shocked. I didn't know that the tennis courts were locked. But, I mean,
Because I always,
You know.
I always thought that it was kind of like trespassing if you went on school ground.
no, no, we have soccer coaches that take their teams out there. As long as there's green space, they can go have a practice if they want to. I mean, you can't bring a circus to town and not tell somebody, but it's absolutely, yeah, you can go. Inside the school's a little bit different. You have to have, like us coordinating or programming it, but outside, yeah.
That's good to know.
So our master plan's ready to go. It's just the matter of, we'll go to each board, get those approvals. Probably need a little bit of help just submitting it to the state. Because we kind of we had a little bit of trouble with the master plan company that we had. They didn't live up to everything, but we do have all of the work from them, and if we can submit it together, I think we've got everything. We've done the public meetings, we've done all of that, so.
Now, you obviously need budgetary numbers that are much more accurate when we go for grants and such, because you put a number in there. You have to submit a budget, those accurate numbers with the master plan itself, or not?
Those are just educated guesses,
I
but
mean,
we'll go back through.
Does the state care to have numbers on the things that are in the master plan for
They
submission?
care more that it's in the master plan than like even the possible properties that are available or the different items, because things change so much. I mean, I could be wrong, but that's what I've always understood it to be, is that,
The boards may take more exception to it because they're going to look at some of these things that you can't do it for that.
So do we need, that's my wonder, do we need to get
To
those
update that.
numbers better before we submit it to the
Might I make a
state?
suggestion? And you can turn it into, we can turn it into a motion if you like, but three of us get together, we sit down, I have a lot of notes, I know every park out there, I have a complete Excel sheet, and we can go over each one of these right here, and I can give you numbers that we've been using for the past 3 years that are pretty close.
Okay.
or maybe
So-
you could just take it, and if you've got the numbers, you could fill it in. I'll be honest with you, I was like more concerned about,
Well, if you
What?
had this in Excel, we could. So if you could.
yeah, I have it in Excel.
Yeah, so send this in Excel, but then we can take a look at, are there other amenities we want in there? Do we want a sand volleyball court? Do we want horseshoe pits? Do we want shuffleboard? I mean, there's a lot of, do we want a golf frisbee? All right, yeah, I realize Bruce Park has one that's got 2 of them. Okay, but is there something that we can make even better? So this is why I'm suggesting a committee to sit down, let's go over this, and then bring it back next month.
Okay.
Is the master plan, though, is it based on is a lot of what you've gotten based off community
Yeah,
feedback though already?
it
So-
does fit with it, yes. So, and I think I tagged a page. I mean, it is really an interesting read for it, but there's a whole list of, okay, so they want a pool. Well, we know, we're not building a pool. But we also know that the high school just renovated their pool, and we have absolute use of it after the high school does. Weight room and gym, we have those, pickleball, tennis, racquetball. No racquetball, but we're taking care of the pickleball. Indoor walking track. Again, we've used the schools in the past when when the security at the schools kind of went into a different direction, it changed that whole thing. So we don't, like the community center or Washington Township doesn't have like a hallway circle that you can kind of do. So that is something we're absolutely lacking. But, one thing we've been doing is working with the Michigan Stars, like our women's volleyball after the girls, or after the old middle school was taken away, we lost 2 gyms. So we've had the women's volleyball out there. I mean, maybe we can get out there with some additional programming or whatever. So those are things that we were talking about and looking at. So anywhere we can find space, we try to find it.
Mhm.
So, but I would say that, look this over, it's an interesting read, and if anybody out there, it's on our website, so.
Awesome.
I'm going to make a motion to refer this item to the park committee for update of the numbers before submission.
And the park committee consists of?
Mr. Dekowski, Mr. Palmer, and Ms. Knight.
And Mr. Billick.
Oh, Mr. Billick's on too?
Yep.
Okay, I'm
Are
sorry.
we breaking OMA? Because if we're going to make decisions and put it on here, we are now breaking OMA.
Oh, you still have to bring it back.
Is that the idea, is that they're serving in just an advisory role, going to bring it back for further discussion and ultimate approval by this commission? Then I think we're fine. If they're the committee's making a final decision and it's
Right.
going up, being filed somewhere, that would be a problem.
I kind of disagree with you, Mrs. Theron, because our attorney has advised us that even on the committee, to not have a quorum on there.
Well, there shouldn't be a quorum.
There
I
wouldn't
mean, were
be a
there
quorum
four?
if,
Yeah.
So there would be,
Okay, I
Three
thought
board
there were
members
just
and an
three
outline.
of you.
oh, yeah,
no.
No, there should not be four. If there's going to be
Yeah,
four,
three.
then you need to conduct it like an open meeting.
I'll step myself off.
Well, originally it was yourself, Ms. Knight, and myself. I understand you want to get in there, so however you want it,
No, I
but
think we're
we don't
good.
want to break OMA.
So if
you're
it's,
gonna
I'll step off. Yep.
Okay.
And
I think it's good that you're on there from a Bruce Township perspective.
Absolutely. And can you pick a date?
I got it.
So we have a motion on the table to refer it to this committee. I will second that motion because they're
Pardon?
setting up a date over there.
I don't, but she's not available right now. So we can put it and then pending approval by Cindy. And then if we need to change it, adjust it, we'll change it, but we can at least pick one out now.
What works for you?
Hey, can we have all in favor of them needing to do this work, say aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? All
Thank
right.
you for that. So how about,
Any community comments for the, please, sir, if you would step over to the mic, introduce yourself, and we'll hear
Mr.
from
Palmer,
you.
we're trying to pick out a date, if we can do that before we start
Okay.
the announcements.
Sure.
Okay, and that way there. So how about October 11th? I'm available after 4.
Okay.
Where would you like to meet, sir?
Here's fine.
Okay.
Well,
All right.
I'll be here.
All right, so Parks Committee.
Say 4:30.
You want to do 4:30? That's fine with me.
It's almost your turn.
So what we have picked out is October 11th at 4:30 here in Bruce Township.
All right.
Always easier when you get a date and a place ahead of time.
Love it.
Thank you, sir.
Please.
Hello, my name is Clark Stow. I live in Romeo. It's been interesting to sit here and listen to what's going on. I'm here to ask a question. Back in on the July 27th meeting, Romeo came to you and asked you to take a look at Sisson Park.
Yes.
And I saw that on the agenda, but I haven't seen any comments of it since. And I was just trying to get an update on where that might be.
Yes, and I will verify with the village president, but according to the last set of meetings for the village council, they disbanded that park committee and are looking at that piece of property as now not to be a park. So that's just public information I read in the paper, so I will verify with the village.
No, I can update you on that because
Okay,
I was chairman of that committee.
all right.
All right.
So I do have a little bit insight of that. The village of Romeo met again in August, on the 21st. And there was a motion to rescind that July motion. That motion failed. As we stand here today, the original motion in July still stands. It's going to be a park. It's classified as a park.
Wasn't there not one this past week that I read? That's where I was coming from, that it went, and then it went, switched to park, and then they switched it back. This time, they disbanded the park committee, and
They just, at the 21st meeting, they disbanded the park committee, but they didn't disband the decision that was made on a 4-1 vote in July to make it designated as a park.
okay.
That still stands.
So we'll have to then reach out to the village president as part of our lease agreement to confirm and
Well, it's in the minutes.
that on.
It's in the minutes, so it's,
So am I correct that that's not currently a Parks and Rec park?
it's not designated as a Parks and Rec park.
And where is this located at?
And so-
right on Sisson Street behind Croswell,
So it's inside a,
It's
inside the village.
It's across from Durham and the
Is that Glenn's
bus,
Garage?
the bus garage. It's 1.3 acres.
so it's more of a neighborhood park.
Right.
Well, it's just a piece of
Just a
land right now.
It's a vacant lot that
It is,
has
it
been
is
dead.
listed in our master plan.
Pardon me?
It is listed in our master plan as a possible park.
It is not?
It is.
It is.
It is,
It's listed in your master plan?
yes.
As a possible.
A possible park, like any properties that,
Possible future park.
yes.
So the Parks and Rec would be interested in taking that over and developing that as a park?
Maybe.
Well, okay, so
I
all
don't know
of
that we're
the
ready to say
vacant
that on the
properties.
record, but I think we're ready to have a
All of the vacant
conversation.
properties are listed in the master plan so that they can be considered for parkland or future parkland.
So even though it's in the Village of Romeo master plan, I mean, that is a designated area, that's also considered in your master plan?
It is part of our properties that have the possibility of becoming a park. Like Washington has different parcels that are empty, and they have the possibility of becoming a park. Bruce Township has the same type of thing. Yeah, Hip Road property. Anytime that there's a piece of property, we try to list it in the master plan, not to say it's getting developed at that time, but just so that it has a marker in our plan. Yeah, it's recorded.
So and I'm just trying to get clarification.
Yeah.
So I appreciate your candor. So the park downtown in Romeo, this downtown, is that also in your master plan?
So it is in our master plan, yes. It's listed, yes, but the village takes care of that park currently. The Parks and Recreation just assist in it. We've done, back before it was redone, we used to power wash the gazebo, pay to have it painted.
So you do the maintenance and the.
Some of the maintenance, yeah.
And the cutting the grass and do all that or whatever it is, or that.
Yeah, it's weird, but DPW actually cuts the grass.
Right.
Or the village has that done, not
So-
the Parks and Rec.
Excuse me for
Yes.
interrupting.
No, you're right.
So when it's in your master plan, does that mean you own the property?
No, we list any empty parcels within Romeo, Washington, and Bruce that possibly could be used as a park, but some of them never will be used as a park, or maybe they will be used as a park. I'm just saying that there's a list of them in the master plan, just in case.
Parks and Rec does not own any real estate at all.
You don't, okay.
We don't own any real
Okay.
estate at all. What we do is we maintain, manage, and offer services within the parks. but the parks are owned by the communities in which
Right,
they lie.
okay, that's fine, I understand it perfectly.
Yeah. So it's just clarification.
That if, in this particular lot that's, you would be considered managing it, would that be anything that residents of Romeo would have any input into?
It's a discussion that hasn't happened, sir. So you're asking for information for a discussion that this commission has not had a conversation about.
Yeah, all we've gotten was President Poznanski came and presented to us stating that that had come back to becoming a park and wondering whether or not we would entertain discussing about what that would be. That's really all we've done.
Okay, so and that's probably on this little ad hoc committee that you have that are looking at parks?
No.
We have not done that yet.
So it's not any, it's,
So that ad hoc committee is strictly for the parks we currently manage.
okay, thank you, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
we really just had just that first brief conversation. She came to one of our meetings and just asked if we would be interested in having a conversation. And so we have not had a further conversation.
Would that be an open forum conversation?
If we got to the point where we were doing anything, it certainly would for sure.
Okay, I just, because that piece of land is important to several of us.
For sure. I live right around the corner from there. It's very important to me too.
I back up to it.
Oh, okay.
My condo deck looks right at it, so.
Okay.
We, even though that group's been disbanded, we're still a group that is going to be actively involved in pursuing that as a park. So, and any kind of cooperation we have.
Absolutely.
Or might have. So, and that's the reason I'm here, is to get,
So has your group entertained the possibility of doing a purchase by the group where it is now owned by this group, and therefore you can direct its future? Which means you're also going to take on the responsibility of the maintenance and any improvements that you want.
The intent of our committee, and I'll share a few things with you that, we got, this kind of got dropped on us as a shock, but our intent was to do, and we've already lined up some grants and stuff to fully fund it and develop it as a park, and have a donation program that would set up a fund to maintain it. That never got to the consideration level. But
Sounds like a good consideration.
well, it was, because I've got a strong financial background, and I used to work for several venture capitalists. I already had $65,000 worth of firm donations in our committee. So I'm just being as candid with you as possible.
Absolutely.
I have no hidden agenda on us. I'm 83 years of age. I have no hidden agenda anymore. I appreciate people. I could deal with people as long as I could sit down and talk to them. And whatever is the easiest way to do to make that a park that's going to be a beautification function, I don't care how it gets done, as long as it gets done. And we've got a group that wants to be volunteers to bring that to volition. So.
Fantastic. I will say hi to you when I walk past your condo tomorrow morning.
Well, when you, I live at 380 Brook.
380? Okay. I'm around the corner from you.
Okay. Well, then you probably.
Donuts with his coffee.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah, can you tell?
You could probably tell me, because there's, I'm in one of those citizen condos.
I know exactly where
right
you're
there,
at,
so.
yeah.
Hey, thank you very much. I appreciate
you.
Awesome.
Appreciate you.
You letting us know. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Oh, excuse me, and I just wanted to say one more thing. I'm a strong believer in full charge bookkeepers, because they're worth their weight in gold.
All right, thank you.
I had several of them in my companies, and two of them never graduated from high school even, and they knew more than a bunch of CPAs that I had working for me, and I had to pay for. So
Thank you. Ms. Mary?
How are you? I just have a question. The board is set up with 5 of you there and 2 alternates. The last committee that you just formed has a board member that's in place tonight and an alternate, or the alternate is here, but you've got a regular board member, and then you have an alternate on the committee.
2 board
Should-
members and an alternate.
Yeah,
There's 2 board members and an alternate.
right. So that's not the place of the alternate. The alternate is only brought in when the regular board member can't be here. So how can you form a committee with an alternate and a board member?
The committees in the interlocal do have, there is the authority to use the alternates on the subcommittees for certain things as are designated. For the meetings like tonight, having the alternate when someone is absent, like Mr.
Oh, I
Kowski.
understand. I
Okay.
understand that part, but I don't understand the part about forming the committee with a board member, an alternate, and then another.
Yeah, it's written in the interlocal that that is something that can happen.
Oh, really? Then actually, I don't even know who the Bruce Township alternate is, but if there is an alternate for Bruce Township, they should be here at every meeting so that they could become a member of a committee that was formed.
It is my understanding that the Bruce alternate has resigned.
Yeah, but there probably is someone, I would imagine,
Well, we
that
have to,
they
Yeah, we
have
have-
put somebody in that place.
The board needs to appoint.
Okay.
Bruce
Yeah.
Township
Bruce
has
Township
to.
Board.
Bruce
Okay,
Township
because the
Board has
Bruce
to.
Township alternate, as far as I know, has never been here.
Right.
And
And it is also-
if they're able to be a part of a committee, then they should attend every meeting.
They should.
And that's in the
That's-
interlocal agreement as well.
Yeah.
That
It's in
they
the
should,
agreement.
that they
Yeah.
should attend all
Well-
the meetings?
It
They don't-
No, it's
says it's
not.
recommended.
It's
It's
recommended.
recommended,
Yeah,
thank you.
it's recommended.
Thank
Not
you.
that they have to,
Yep.
but it's
Thank you, Ms. Mary.
recommended.
We
Yes.
could have citizens.
Absolutely.
Right.
That's right.
We do that all the time.
I was going to say that, you have broad discretion. I mean, it isn't, the subcommittees you form isn't just limited to commissioners. It can include an alternate, it can include a private resident, 2 private residents, I mean, you know, what have you. And there are appropriate circumstances where you may want to do that. So no, you are not limited in the composition of your committees to just the I'll call them permanent, or probably regular members is probably a better term.
And you can even do a committee of the whole. So all 5 board members could meet as a committee.
This has
Not a
to be-
single decision could be made, like
That's
Mrs.
correct.
Karen advised you earlier. You take minutes of that meeting, and you're totally legal.
That's correct.
Any commission comments to finish the evening?
I have one question. Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Okay, so I am a full believer of the Open Meetings Act, and I understand, I don't understand it all, but looking at it, you know, it says an essential, we've always been told that we are not essential. I believe we're essential, but I know there's a lot of decisions that are going to be coming up about situations that, like the first definition of who, I don't know where it's at right now, but it just says you have to be an essential government body. And I know, like, we're not a first responder, like the fire department and DPW, you know, those are essential groups. Parks and Recreation, we are
I'm not
below.
sure what you're referring to. The word essential doesn't appear in the Open Meetings Act. The Open Meetings Act governs public bodies. This is clearly a public body.
Well, it said it on like the first page, or when I was,
But it also wrote us in the interlocal agreement that says we will abide by the Open Meetings
Right.
Act.
But I mean,
Oh.
you are, I am telling you.
So we have to just by the
100%
interlocal.
certain.
there we are.
You are subject to the.
Well, I was
Open
just trying to
Meetings Act.
figure out, and I'm 100% I believe in transparency and that, but I guess I've known it for so long that there are going to be decisions coming up that I guess the Open Meetings Act, it's going to be very hard for our department to operate as we
I
have.
understand it can be inconvenient, but it applies to every public body in the
Yeah.
state of Michigan. There are no inconvenience exceptions. So
Right.
we need to, as I started saying before, if we don't believe we are going to be able to conduct business through our regular meetings or special meetings, and that we need more administrative flexibility in between meetings, the place to do that is in our policies, which govern like your threshold, your maximum levels.
Oh, and do
You can
that.
spend it. I mean, that's where you address it, but there is no inconvenience.
Yeah, I mean, I know that. I just didn't
understand,
know
and I
it.
understand things have maybe been done differently before, but if I'm being asked, what's the Open Meetings
Yeah, and
Act
honestly, I
requires,
wanted to know,
I'm
just
telling you.
because we've just been always told we are not essential, so, but we are a public body.
You
And
are
I
a
do,
public body,
and I do believe that
getting
we are
around that.
essential, so.
John, can I jump in on that real quick, so on the word essential? Essential comes in on townships and that these are the services that you must provide
Essential
by
services,
law.
right.
Okay, fire, safety, DPW. Parks and Rec, by law, you do not have to provide it. It's a convenience. So it's not that they're non-essential, it's a great convenience to have, and the residents have spoken and said, we want it. So
Right.
that's why it's going forward in that right there. So, and I think the word essential really came out during COVID when they said, oh, these guys here, this group can get together, but this group can't because they're essential workers, right?
Well, it's here. I
Yeah.
mean, I just was reading it and have been told for many years that we're not essential, but I know we are, and I get it. We're a public body, and I do not dispute that. So that's all I wanted to know.
And I just have one last comment. I want to thank everybody for sitting with you tonight. It's been a very good night. I enjoyed seeing all the residents coming out. And, I want this thing to grow. But we got to do it in the right way and be mindful of everybody.
May I have a motion to adjourn? I don't want to make that.
Motion to adjourn.
All right,
Second.
second. We have to all in favor.
Third.
Aye.
Didn't mean to hesitate so long.